Hello everyone, welcome to episode 72 ahead of Gameweek 38, the final game week of the season. I'm joined by a very smart looking, quiff-wielding Mark Southerns. How are you, Mark?
I said, I went for a haircut and he gave me a younger haircut and I said, don't talk about my haircut. And what do? First line.
It's got to be done, isn't it, Luke?
I'm just feeling for the podcast listener who doesn't get to, to see what you
join us on
anyway,
YouTube.
Good evening. Good evening. I am a bit tired after my extravagant night last night, which was very enjoyable, but quite draining, shall we say. But yes, I'm good.
Good. And Mr. Luke, how are you, my friend?
Not bad at all. I just wondered, Mark, did you come out with a DVD player? Because my hairdressers around my way all run by gangsters. They try and sell you one of them as well at the same time? Or?
No, I came out with a 15 quid pot of wax, which is probably is a racket in itself, isn't it? Let's face it. So it's a form of being a gangster, isn't it? Selling hair products to people when they're tired and delirious and they've just had a haircut. Right?
Have you got wax in right now?
Yeah, of course, because I haven't washed it since I came out of the barber's, which was only like a few hours ago. So I've just walked straight out of a salon. Wasn't that an advert once?
Oh, I thought you might have gone yesterday before the big game. I didn't realise you'd gone today.
No. Because we're on the FPL show tomorrow, as
we are.
Early plug, and so I needed a haircut because I have to look after my appearance sometimes.
Making me feel bad.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm not saying anything.
Anyway, we're not just here to talk about
we don't
haircuts.
want to talk about my appearance.
No, we're not just here to talk about. We are here to talk about what's been happening in Game Week 37. We'll briefly touch on that. We'll talk about our kind of targets for the final game week. There's no medium long-term planning anymore. It's all about one more week to try and get as high in the rankings as we possibly can. I've got aspirations for top 1K. Mark's got aspirations for top 100K. Luke, you're on the beach, I'm guessing.
Well, you say that, but if there's anyone who can mess it up, it's probably me. I'm still looking for number one, mate. It can happen. Is there? Do you think there is a possible combination where you could rise up 70,000 places in one game week? Is that actually possible? No, there isn't. Is there? Who am I kidding?
If anyone can do it, mate, is
not
you.
even this season. That's possible. I don't think, Luke. Not even for you.
I mean, it's a nice segue though, because talking about lots of points. Let's come on to your Game Week 37 so far first, Luke. You played your free hit. 71 points. I will just run through your team quickly. Pickford, Cash, Mings, Mikolenko, Son, De Bruyne, Ings, captain, and Richarlison. Then the three names that I've missed out, Maddison, Barnes, and Jamie Vardy. You went for the Leicester attacking trio. They delivered, didn't they?
They certainly did, yeah. It's a shame no one else did, because if you look at everyone else in my team so far, they've been shocking. Like I've seen a lot on Twitter, where everyone's saying like the 3-hit 37's got quite lucky, and I do agree in terms of the players that everyone else has got. Like from Liverpool and City and stuff. I didn't do much, but aside from the Leicester ones and probably Richarlison, which most people have, it hasn't like punished massively like this season has. And I'd say, yes, the Leicester ones have, but not a lot of people actually went with them. Or maybe they went with one or two, like Kane was quite popular instead of Vardy. I don't think Maddison was that popular because, as you can see, I left out Zaha. And it's important to bear in mind we've still got, obviously, tomorrow's games to go, so we could all end up being equalised. But, yeah, I basically just thought that's the best fixture of the game week. If I get my players start, then hopefully they can haul. It doesn't always work, obviously, but I took the punt, like I've said many times, on the expected minutes rather than the actual player. I felt like these players could return, better than some of the other options if they were given the chance, and it just so happened it worked this time. I could have quite easily got 3 1-pointers there. I understand that, so there's definitely some luck involved, but I'm happy to take those risks, and occasionally they work out, so it's nice when it happens.
Yep.
And I think Maddison and Vardy we talked about, didn't we, on the show? But Barnes was the outlier. I didn't see you going there, and he's been so flaky, isn't he, Barnes? He just has been so inconsistent. That was the shock, him coming in.
I'm a fan of his as well, so I keep buying him.
He's had a really up and down season, hasn't he? And mostly down, I would say, if anything. The up was probably in the Community Shield, if anything. But I think he's actually got something like 3 double-digit hauls in his last 5 games or something. And I don't really react to form necessarily. I just thought if he plays, he's a good player, and he's playing against probably the worst team in the Premier League right now because all the injuries Watford have got as well. I think you probably have to put them there. So that was what it was, and thankfully he came through. He's obviously a very selfish player. Midfielders who score goals is always the appeal, and that's what he's about, really, isn't he? So, definitely some luck, but well happy with the choice so far. Of course, Zaha could score 3 tomorrow, and then suddenly it's irrelevant. So
I doubt that'll happen. I've got him, so I don't see it. But,
So
woe is
defeatist,
me,
Mark.
woe is
So
me. I know.
defeatist. I mean, I sold Barnes last week just because I couldn't bear it anymore. Him missing games. I thought, what did it for me was in that Europa League game when Rodgers changed the whole system and took off. I think he took off both wide men and brought on Iheanacho. And I just thought, not only is he out of form, but he's, the system's changing and tweaking. And then, of course, he goes on his best run of the season. So I'm lamenting that a little bit. But I did buy Maddison. Unlike you, Mark, who went into this game week with no Leicester.
No.
You're the lowest score of the three of us, 42 points so far.
Yep.
We did match of the day challenge, didn't we? And Son captain, Richarlison hauling. It's a bit of a nightmare for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I didn't really have much to lose. So, going the way I did with Son captain was just really a way of, it was a differential until Salah got injured, of course. And that's perhaps where I should have reconsidered it, because going Son captain a week ago would have been a quite nice differential because everyone would have been on Salah. But the minute that Salah was a doubt, Son was well bought, and he's most bought this week as well. And suddenly he's gone, hasn't he, really, to me as a differential. So in a way, I should have thought about moving the captaincy off him because it wasn't likely to have the effect that I wanted, which was try and go for a captain that was going to get me the biggest rank gain. And obviously, Son was going into it in strong form, if you believe in that. But yeah, I mean, obviously regret not going with Richarlison, but we'll see. I mean, and I've still got some players left to play, of course. So I've still got the two Villa boys, Gordon, Richarlison and Zaha, so I should make some points up. But obviously, I'm not going to make anything up on Pickford as well. Not going to make anything up on the free hit managers because they've all got those players and probably a Leicester player in there as well. So I'm only really going to catch up a few of the managers who didn't have the free hit, who don't have as many doublers. But I should make a little bit of ground. So I'm probably going to get a small red or small green, I would have thought. I'm on 111k, I was on 105k going into the game week, so it's a small red at the moment. And then, hopefully try and break into top 100k. It's modest targets, not what I was expecting to try and go for at this stage in the season. But given that I've only been in the top 100k twice all season, if I can get in for a third time right at the end, I guess I've got to count that as a win, right?
I want to go back to our Gameweek 38 last season because I think it's an exact flip of where we were.
Were you about where?
Yeah, I think I was a bit.
Were you?
I think I was a bit ahead. I think I was about 125, 130,000, something like that. And I think you were about 5 or 6. But it's very, very similar, but in reverse, which is really weird.
And I took a punt on Mane captain final day, and everyone was on Salah, and that pushed me to 2k, I think, just outside.
I went for Rafinha,
didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mane did.
Yeah.
I went for Rafinha, and he got 1 assist against West Brom at home.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that 100k now is still a pretty decent rank, though, isn't it? I know we're moaning.
I was going to say,
I know it's not for Mark, maybe, but I think it is now, right?
So where do you stand?
Self-respect.
Right?
Tell me, Mark, it's okay.
Where do you stand on that debate? Because it's been, there's been a number of things debated on FPL Twitter. We won't go into all of those for sure, but certainly the rank thing was being discussed on a few pods. I think it's on the Scoutcast. People saying 50k is the new target. I think we were talking to Henry and Natalie about this, weren't we? I think we said 50 and 100k was perhaps a more reasonable target now for someone who's played a few seasons. Right? You shouldn't immediately jump to being 10k. What's your anti-rank really, Luke, aren't you? You basically you just go for that season. You're not really trying to build a rank career of any kind.
No,
that's working well for him.
Get the reason. It's not that I'm against it. I completely understand doing it because it's obviously a sign of a very good player if they're consistent over many seasons. But there's many players, and I think a lot of the people who will watch this that didn't play the game seriously to begin with. I know people take that as an excuse, but I had dead teams, I missed years, So it's almost like because I've got that record, I don't see any point in polishing a turd. It's like, well, I may as well just. And me personally, I do play other games where they have no rank history, so it's just like, well, let's go for number 1. But regardless, I think these days there's that many players. I'm not good enough at maths to work out what 100k out of nearly 9 million players is, but I'd say that's pretty damn good. When this game, no matter how you look at it, 1%, there is definitely
top
skill in this
1%
game.
if you're in the top 100k.
Yeah,
there's a lot of luck in this game. There's a lot of skill, but there is definitely a lot of luck. And I think where Mark is, for example, we know Mark's obviously a top tier manager. He's had seasons where he's finished poorly, and this season 100k for him is probably poor. But I think he could play very similar to how he's played this season, next season, and maybe he's sat at 5k.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's. I mean, I know I've made mistakes this season. I think like what hasn't suited me this season, and we'll do a retrospective next week, I'm sure, a week after. But I think that it's the level of planning has gone up a notch with the number of doubles we've had and the number of and we've had the extra free hit chip, right? So I think when they threw the second free hit chip in and when more doubles arrived and more blanks, and I fell into that trap of really trying to plan forward as cleverly as possible, and it hasn't helped me. I've been better off just trying to go through and get the most points in that current game week rather than going, oh, I'm not going to bring that player in because that player doesn't fit my plan for game week X, which is 3 game weeks down the line. And I've definitely done that. So I'm hoping that won't be the case next season because
I'd say it was the opposite.
Like that.
From the person looking out, I would say you've been a bit more reactive than I would expect, like switching Kane for Salah, Son for Kane a few times. That happened a few times. You did the Lukaku straight in thing. You got rid of Torres. Like, do you know what I mean? To me, it felt a little bit too reactionary. I think maybe you'd have been a bit long term on some of those things. Maybe waited on Lukaku. Maybe waited on Torres. Maybe didn't switch Kane for Son. You might be better off, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Lukaku move was an extreme. Yeah, and that was the move that got rid of Torres. So that one definitely. Yeah, I mean, I reacted to one game from Lukaku where he looked a world beater, and I was kind of like, "Oh, I'm going to get in early." And
I can understand why. He did look really good.
Well, he looked amazing in that one game, and I don't think Chelsea fans know what happened after that. But yeah, but I do think, you know, like the way I played my chips is definitely I've tried to play my chips in the kind of like a master plan way rather than actually play them in the most optimum way. I mean, I guess it's all hindsight. Like you can look back and go, "Oh, well, I should have done that and that and that." So
we'll do a full kind of reflective episode next week, I think, for on our kind of seasons. For me on the ranks, I still can't get out of the thought process that anything outside the top 100k for me isn't a particularly good finish. That's just for me. I'm not saying it's not a good finish for someone who's Natalie, for example, is like 300,000 or 400,000. I think that's amazing for your first season. But for me, I feel like I should be in the top 100,000 FPL managers because this is my life.
Yeah, I mean, and you get enough stick as it is. So if
exactly, I know. And then and then top 10,000 to me is still the target every year. I know.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. I know it changes, but as more people play the game, to me, the top 10,000 becomes more difficult to obtain. That makes it even more of a kind of shining chalice to aim for. So my opinions don't really change on it, but that's just my own view. That's not to say that's the definitive answer.
I think it's all relative to your start as well. I really truly believe that. I know it's not impossible, and there'll always be outliers, but if you get a really good start in this game, like a lot of people in the community did, with the template succeeding so well in the first few weeks. Yeah. When you're in that kind of ballpark, it's usually easier to stay around that. You need quite a few horrific weeks to drop down, and like I say, it can happen. But depending on your start, can often then change your goals. Right?
Last season, I would have been as happy with the top 100k finish as I would be this season with the top 1k, because of the season I had, because I was struggling around the 300,000-400,000 mark all season. That if I'd got into the top 100k on the last day, I would have been, ecstatic. So it is completely relative to how you're doing. That's the thing. That's how I think you enjoy a season, right? You just set yourself new goals as the season progresses to try and.
Absolutely, and I think as well, it's how good you are at digging yourself out of a hole. Sometimes, like in these last few weeks, you could have just sit back and been passive, but some people have gone for Vardy. They've gone for maybe having Son and selling Salah or whatever. They've tried to do something, and it happens to have worked this time. So I respect that because. There's some people who probably just plugged away, and in the end they're probably not happy that they weren't as aggressive as they could have been towards the end. And just one more note on this, I think the chips as well, I say it all the time that there's so much variance in an individual week, and I think with these chips, when you use that chip, you need that week to be a really good week, and sometimes it just isn't, and that can have a massive effect, because obviously a free hit team can be close to 200 points if it's a double game week, or we could have a complete washout and it'd be like 40 or 50 like we sometimes have. Same for wildcard, triple captain could be 90 points or 0. When you use your chips, you also need to have a good game week, and you're not going to have 38 game weeks, and there's nothing guaranteed, so I think that makes a big difference in the end.
Yeah, I mean, all my chips haven't come off really. I mean, my wildcard's been disastrous. I mean, just looking at my overall rank over the season, I got into I was 231k after game week 4, and I never went outside of the top 300k. I only went outside once, so I've been incredibly consistent with where I've been all season. but I've not managed to do the usual
They're
thing.
the worst seasons.
Having those
when you're
breaks.
Just stuck.
Yeah.
When you're just stuck.
Yeah,
and,
no, I have been.
Yeah.
I haven't managed to make that surge at all.
No,
I've tried things, it hasn't worked.
I think Raptor posted saying he's taken like -12s, -16s. They haven't worked. He's tried to bring in 10 players. Haven't worked. I think he was around 30, 40k or something like that, and just wouldn't move in either direction. So yeah, they are kind of frustrating.
Well, I'm not the only one. I think a few have had a frustrating season like that, right? So there's been something about it, and we'll delve into that, won't we, in a future episode.
Do you want to just read your team quickly for the podcast listeners? I think you did that.
What, so far? Yeah, so I'll do that. Yeah, it was Pickford in goal with 2 points at the moment. He's got the next game to come. Palace, of course, tomorrow night. Then Trent, who didn't play. So I was unlucky here because if Shah hadn't have gone off, I'd have got a clean sheet from Shah off the bench. But as it is, I'm just getting Shah's 1 pointer. So that's a bit unfortunate.
No,
he went off.
You got Weghorst first sub.
No, but Trent's a defender, and you have to bring in a defender, don't you?
I remember how the game works. I remember.
Yeah, do you remember that?
I remember, yeah.
And Saiz didn't play, so Shah would have come in. Shah is coming in, but coming in with 1 point rather than 6, which he would have got had he stayed on for 11 more minutes. So it's a bit unlucky with that. But there you go. Dean has a 6, Burnley to come. Cancelo with a 1. Son, captain, with just a 6. Saka with 2. Coutinho with 2 and Burnley to come. Gordon with 2. Palace to come, Zaha with 2, Everton to come, and Richarlison with 12, with Palace to come, and then Kane with 7. So I've got 6 players, 6 players to play again, which is good for a non-free hit team. So I should be all right. I mean, as I say, I think that's small red, small green, and then enough. I'll be in a position where I can try and get in the top 100k in the final week. But what will I do to achieve that? Well, we'll talk about that later.
You've got a good record on the final day. Someone pointed out in the chat, you do tend to spot that pick. So I'll be interested to know what you say. Someone had a look, by the way. Last year, you were 3,388. So you were less than 100 places different to where I am now.
That's crazy.
And I was 1,333. So again,
100,333. Yeah, so not much in it at all.
Not much. It's a real crazy kind of flip.
So I am beating you on aggregate then. We had the 2 seasons up. I just want to make that clear.
And that's what it's all about. All about the aggregate.
Can you just
score.
put that into chat that I'm beating him on aggregate? So
how different it is to when you were mocking me every week for never being in front of you. Those were the dark days. To go through my team, I played the bench boost, which went better than I could ever have dreamed. I had Pickford in goal, Trent and Robertson, who both didn't play. But the 2 players that I would have, had first and second on the bench would have been Saka and Roberts, who've both done nothing. I'll tell you about the other 2 in a sec. Cancelo, Cash, Son. I bought in Maddison, Gordon, Ings, captain, Kane, and Richarlison. For anyone who doesn't know, I took a -12 this week, which I'm sure Luke will be very proud of. I bought in.
Well done, mate.
Thanks, mate. I bought in Son, Maddison, Ings, and someone else. Pickford for the -12. So it's only Maddison that's returned, but I'm happy with that. But my bench, Dubravka, clean sheet against Arsenal. And of course, my boy, Bruno G, 11 points.
He's your clutch player, isn't he? He just pulls it out for you at the end every time. Unbelievable.
Couldn't believe. Third on my bench. There's no way I would have played him if I hadn't had this bench boost. Saka and Roberts with a double game week would have come above him. So, 18 points on the bench boost. I was hoping for 10. I'll take 18. More than happy with that. Thanks, Bruno.
Would you like more, Smith Rowe or Bruno?
Bruno every day. I've actually got the spot on my wall is reserved for Reece James because I've had a bit of artwork done.
The other player that you've had incredible luck with this season, you mean? Yeah, that's right, Reece James. Yeah,
I prefer to call it variance.
Yeah,
it's I think I've got 6 left to play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 including Roberts. If we can include Roberts, 69 points. So yeah, I'm actually really happy with how things gone so far. Right, let's move on. Let's just take a quick look at the great and the good for the final time. Well, before we look at post-season, because this is what people care about, Mark.
Tom's beating me now, isn't he?
My God, no, you're 1 point ahead of Tom Freeman.
Oh right, okay.
Who caught up, I think, close to 100 points to you in like 2 weeks. So 1 point going into that. You're 2 points behind Joe. Sort of 5 points behind Les Caldwell, who got hacked. Let's just remind you of that. You can't.
You didn't have to. You didn't have to remind us. To be fair, you could have just left it, but no.
chose not to.
Yeah, he chose to remind us. Thanks.
Oh, I'm so going to get called being. What does someone call me? What's opposite humble?
Oh, I don't know. All kinds of names.
All kinds of names.
I was going to say I can think of a whole host. But
let's not play this game.
No, I wouldn't go there if I was you.
But yeah, you could finish bottom of that. The other problem for you, Mark, is Elite 64. You are now 54th. You're 7 points off safety.
You say problem, I say opportunity. You see, that's the difference. Yeah, it's tight, isn't it? I mean, they've all had chips around me, so I haven't been able, but I haven't lost too much ground. I'm still in touch. Final day, could go the final day. I could possibly catch a few, and obviously I've still got some players to come. I know those above me have as well, but you know, there's some above me who haven't got many players to come this week. So I think I've given myself a chance on the final day. It's in my own hands, which is a very popular phrase this season, isn't it? So I'm all right. I'm confident I can still pull it off.
And the best thing about all this is that the three of us could be watching the games together on Sunday.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah,
if I get permission, which is still very much in the air.
Is it? Oh no.
Well, given that I was at the playoff semi-final and I've got the FPL show tomorrow and I'm doing this tonight, and I'm pushing my luck a bit.
You definitely are.
I will begin negotiations very soon and let you know on that one.
Just charm her with your smooth haircut.
With my new haircut. I'm not sure that's really helped my cause, to be honest. But
to be honest, she'll want you out the door, if anything. Looking like that.
Oh, so harsh.
This isn't the direction I wanted this show to go in. But yeah, go ahead.
Shouldn't have invited Luke on then. This is what he brings. On the other end of the table, Fabio Borges has sewn it up, I think. He's now 70 points ahead of me, which is like... I was about 70 points ahead of him, and he's 246th in the world now. So to add to his ridiculous record, he's now
ridiculous.
Probably get a 500. So you say about the luck element, Luke, but Fabio just continues to prove that there has to be some element of skill in this game.
Oh, absolutely, there's skill. He's without doubt the most skilled, isn't he? But I think he'd be the first to admit that you have to have skill and the luck. Like you can be, even over many seasons, be one of the people who's had more luck than you haven't, right? And I'm sure he would vouch for that. What did he do this week that was incredible? I saw something that he'd done that was really nuts.
He played his free
hit. It was the interview, with Greybeard. I don't know if you guys saw it on Fantasy Football Scout, where he basically said, I do not pay attention to EO unless it's an extremely close call, and then I'll just go with the safe one. And I really like that because that's what I try to do. So it's almost like, oh yeah, that's me. I do that. That's me. I can be as good as him one day.
I think that's true of most of it. I mean, I pay attention to EO when it's the opposite though. This season I've tried to go against the EO, right? So I don't think any of us really are kind of have that FOMO on EO very often. No. Every now and then, like at the start of the season, if there's a player like Tony or Werner the season before last, I think I feared it then. Because you don't want to be late to that party and then miss the rises. So I think that's when the only time I feel the pinch from EO is at the start of the season, really early on.
But there are quite a number of players that are very good on Twitter that will play the EO game, right? I think Hints is one of them. FPL Hints, for example, he's open to admit that he'll just play the EO game. And it does result in high ranks quite a lot, virtually all the time. But yeah, I think taking it to that next step, like Fabio Borges does, is what can result in this, where when he's got that close decision, maybe you just go with the one with the high EO for protection, but otherwise you go for the best pick.
I think using EO, like Tips does, it compresses the rank you can get. You can't get as high as Fabio, but then you're minimal damage. Yeah, exactly. So and I think Tips actually says, I'm fine with that. He's okay with that. So it's minimising the damage you can take in any week, whereas Fabio achieves the rank he does by not caring about that and not factoring it in, which is certainly the way I endorse that as well.
Yep. And then looking at some other stuff, Luke, you've been lamenting your kind of. I will just say Magnus Carlsen is just behind me. He's 20 points off me.
Is he? But what? Not literally behind you. Right,
okay. I wish he was. No, Magnus. He's just standing in the doorway, just nodding his approval. At BlackBox.
You should let him in, really.
That'd be great. So we're kind of the top front. I'm sandwiched in between Fabio and Magnus. I'm the meat in that lovely sandwich. So I'll take that. Luke, you've been lamenting captaincy choices for you, including Danny Ings this week. You got 636 points with your captain. The best is of Oh no, it's not. Of course, Fabio. It's Jeff Dance with 710. He'd be happy with that when I tell him. Oh no, it's not Jeff Dance. It's Magnus Carlsen 738. Sorry, Jeff. But yeah, 738 to your 636. That's 100 difference. Magnus is ranked 6k.
He's the master of it, to be fair.
70k. Yeah.
I mean, I was doing very well in this. I was actually top at one point, but my last sort of 6 or 7 weeks have been abysmal. I've had Salah captain twice for benches, Ings this week, obviously still a game to go, but my score this week at 71, if I'd have captained Richarlison, which the model told me to, I'd be sat here with an absolute monster. So yeah, I've just got it wrong, the captain, the last 5 or 6 weeks, which has been really frustrating, because usually I feel like I'm usually okay at that. Like I can do the whole EO thing we just discussed and look at like a James or a Cancelo, and quite often it does work out, but this season, towards the end, definitely it's let me down massively. It's just a shame. If I'd have managed to combine that with my sort of late surge and the captains, I could have really, really risen. But it'll have to wait till next season.
Yep. Absolutely.
Interesting for the data as my captain score's okay. It's on par with most. But look at the hits. I've taken double the hits of Fabio, and that's me trying to force it, right? And that is a factor as well. Like sometimes when you're not satisfied with your rank, certainly with my mentality, I will try and push with hits, and I've done that, and it hasn't come off. And obviously, that's compounded things. That's kept me kind of in a rut. Basically, I haven't been able to get out of it because I've taken quite a few hits compared to most there.
It's tricky. I mean, I looked at my team after last week, and I thought my team was in a right state. So I took the -12 to kind of sort everything out, and that has been a bit of a redemption story. Because if I hadn't done that, I would be really down. Now, I think I'd almost certainly be outside of the top 10k.
Because you wouldn't have Madison's points.
I wouldn't have Madison's points. Now, look at myself in Gameweek 38, and I've got Son in there now. I've got Ings to come in. So sometimes you have to take them just to kind of sort your team out. But it's obviously harder to do when there's not many.
There's definitely a time for them, and it's usually double game weeks, isn't it? But the old it's only 2 points in a double game week. It still stands true, really. Yeah, if your team is going to be much, much improved for the weeks to come, and especially, and I think even Fabio Ball just said it, he'll take a hit if he feels like he really needs that captain for that individual week. And I certainly need to get better at it, because you can see 100. I'll do what I'm not happy with my team. I don't want Ramsey to play away to Man City. I need to get someone in, and I'll take a hit. And if that player doesn't perform, really, I should have just played the 2 points from Ramsey, and that's something I need to take personally into next season, is you just can't do them as much. But there is definitely a balance to be had, I feel. You don't just take them for the sake of it, but some weeks it is effective, or your expected points will actually be better by taking the hit, and it's usually double game weeks.
Yep.
The thing is, I mean, you look at managers like Fabio and Zoffel, who Zoffel's taken 32 points in hits. He wouldn't normally do that. So this is a season like no other in terms of the double game weeks have increase the propensity of taking hits. So I think next season the likes of Zoffel and Fabio will probably be on more like 20 rather than 36 at this
Probably.
point. And probably I'll be on less as well. So we'll see.
But you still need the luck with the injuries, though. You still need that, right? I know they probably keep the injured player in their team for a little while. I think me and you might look at the prices and we think, well, I don't want to take that -2 or 3 on that player, and I'll take him out. And I think that plays into it. And again, I go back to this Fabio Borges interview, and if you haven't looked at it by now, you probably should do. He says he completely ignores prices completely.
Yeah. To be honest, I've been all right with injuries this season. I don't. Looking back, I don't think I can say I've been unlucky with injuries at all. So I can't really cling to that particular branch.
Did you not go the Bamford Calvert-Lewin train that went one after another and all that?
No, I avoided that.
You had the Alonso Chilwell hokey cokey stuff.
I had the Chelsea defenders. I had James, then he got suspended. I moved to Rudiger. I think he then missed a game. I went Chilwell, he got injured. So my Chelsea defence, I will definitely dive into that to see just how unfortunate I was with that. That's about the only area that I think.
And I'm sure you won't bring up my luck with it at all, which would be nice.
No.
Right, let's move on, guys. That's enough reflection. Let's look forward to Game Week 38, the final game week. We've been talking about hits. It'd be interesting to get your opinions on hits for Game Week 38, but we'll do that kind of as we go. These are the fixtures. It's sad when you get to this stage and the fixture ticker becomes one block of games. To me, there are some great looking games this week, though. If you're chasing mini leagues and you're trying to chase top 100 or top 1k finishes, there's the fact Liverpool City is going to go right to the wire, the fact there's still a kind of a top 4 race going on. You've got the relegation threatened teams, you've got teams like Wolves who've just completely given up, and Southampton, and playing against good sides. So loads of opportunity here. Spurs have got Norwich, Chelsea have got Watford, Leicester have got Southampton. Got Newcastle against Burnley, who play tomorrow. Arsenal against Everton. Tricky game for both of those sides. Liverpool v Wolves. And then you've got City versus Villa. Who knows what's going to happen in that? And you've got other games like Crystal Palace versus Man U. That could go any way. Brentford versus Leeds. That's a tricky game for Leeds as well. There's, we talk about, we're going to come on to goals in a second, but it looks to me like Gameweek 38 is going to have goals in it. Would you agree, Mark?
Yeah, it's almost freakish, isn't it? I mean, you look at it and think, is this the most perfect game week of the season in terms of the big teams having the fixtures that suggest big returns? I mean, and it comes on a final day, which is always something that suggests big returns. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking back to when these fixtures occurred again, but I think they were all broken up by COVID and so on. So we can't. On game week 15, for example, was when Spurs played Norwich, but the other fixtures don't tally, so there isn't a like for like. We can't look back and see what the results were then necessarily. But certainly, when I was doing my forward planning, I was looking at 38 thinking, well, I'm all right for that. If anything, I'll probably go into game week 38 with some vanity transfers. What I mean by that is transfers I don't have to make, but transfers that I see would be improving my team. It hasn't quite turned out like that, as we'll see later on, but it's still a game which I think many FPL managers will look at and think, my team looks good here, because I think most of us have got 3 or 4 players with really strong fixtures, whether they be Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City players. Most of us have got a good nucleus of those, which suggests we should do well.
It's the perfect blend of the teams that have been performing all season, having great games, and then also teams that have either not really been options so far in the season, but have come into it in in sort of the later couple of weeks.
Yep.
Like Leicester, for example. You've got Chelsea, who have obviously got one of the best games you could ever imagine, and then there's sort of like the differential players behind that. There is just so many options to me. It literally feels like there's about 20 to 25 players that you could pick and argue.
I was just about to say, you could build 2 squads this week, and both of them could be completely viable. The only cert would probably be Son.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say that Man
it.
City game's green as well, right? I think it's on the yellow there. I'd put that green. You could argue even the Palace one versus Man United might be green. There's a hell of a lot of, like you say, when you combine game week 38, which historically has had more goals, it's almost like...
Ooh, what a lovely segue, Luke.
It feels like the last day at school, doesn't it? Like the teacher's not bothered to teach a lesson. He's just slapped a video on and go out there and have a laugh, basically.
I've bought in Action Man as well, so I can play with that as well.
Yeah, that's the kind of vibe I'm going for with this Black Box episode as well. Just let it go.
Bringing toys, final day. Yeah.
So this graphic is from Scout. This is an article that Tom wrote for Scout. Let's go check it out. This is kind of looking at the because everyone says, is there more goals in Game Week 38 or not? And this is the last 10 seasons. You can see going back to 2011-12 and the kind of season averages. I mean, the most obvious takeaway from this is if you look at the average goals per game in Game Week 38, pretty much I think everyone but one is over 3 goals in this. If you look at the season average for each of the seasons, they're all under 3 goals. So, you could suggest from this chart that you're going to get about 1 goal extra a game. Which
why is this? Why does this
crazy,
happen?
isn't it?
Well, first of all, it is only 10 game weeks, isn't it? So it is still a small sample. So nothing is guaranteed. But it's like what I said. I think when it's the final day of school, almost, I feel like maybe the managers just send them out there and say, look, just have fun. You've earned it. It's been a hard season. Now, not everyone can do that because obviously some have got things to play for. But if there is a narrative behind it, perhaps it's that. It could be the small sample. It could be a number of things. And obviously, like I say, nothing is guaranteed. We could end up here with hardly any goals. But the way the fixtures have fallen as well, it seems hard to say that because it's hardly like we've got many garden centre games this week. Some weeks you will have Burnley versus Palace. You'll have the 2 big teams playing each other, and you can say, well, this game week's probably going to have a lower average of goals. Forget the game week 38 thing. This week looks like a good week for goals, full stop, as we've just suggested. So.
I think often, by this point, most of the positions in the league are decided. Okay, we've got a couple of things around relegation. There's like 3 teams kind of in the mix of that: Leeds, Burnley, and Everton. Top 4 was pretty much decided. Maybe Arsenal could get in if I think Spurs would have to lose to Norwich for that to happen. But and then obviously you've got the league title. But kind of everything else is decided. So I think particularly for the home fans,
I was going to say,
surely the message Yeah.
Yeah.
Surely the message is just go out and look. I mean, look at St James's Park on Monday night. It was. I knew it was going to be rocking, but it was rocking that night, and it spurs the players on. There's no doubt. There's no doubt it does. Newcastle had not only have they got great tactics these days and some good players, but the atmosphere at St James's Park, I'm sure motivates that side.
Yeah. The thing is as well, like last home game of the season. If it's the last game of the season as well, the home team are going to do a lap of honour. They don't want to do a lap of honour having just lost 1-0.
Been pumped.
So there is that onus on the home team to go, let's go out of a bang. Let's play some expressive football. Let's entertain the fans that are here for this final day. That's if you've got nothing to play for. If you're Burnley, for example, who have to get a result to try and stay up, and the tension will probably get to you, and you're not going to be expressive. You're just going to try and grind out a victory or grind out a draw if that's what's needed. But for teams like Palace at home to Man United, for example, I look at that and think that could be. I mean, I think Palace will win, and it could be anything. It could be. We've seen Man United. I mean, you'll see in a bit. I think they were involved in a 5-5 draw West Brom one season, weren't they?
That's Fergie's last game, wasn't it? Lukaku hat-trick.
And Palace will look at this and go, not only are we at home final day, we've got Man United, and Man United are there to be got at as well. So it's a big name, but they're a team that really don't, live up to that billing. So we can definitely win the game. I mean, who knows? We might be able to get a few goals and win by a decent margin. So that kind of scenario is set up really nicely. And you know what the Palace home fans are like. Blimey, they are the 12th man at Sellers Park. So it really does serve up some interesting scenarios for sure.
Well, I think about how I feel going into Gameweek 38, and I feel excited. I feel willing to take a risk and chuck a thing. And I'm a bloody FPL player. What must it be like to be a footballer to go out on the final day of this season? You've had 37 weeks of all this, and you can just go out and express yourself. There must be something in it. Psychologically.
It does mean that outcomes are still hard to predict, though, right? I think we've seen many times in the past.
Absolutely.
Like I distinctly remember a 5-5 with, was it Man U West Brom? I think maybe.
Yeah, Man U West Brom. Lukaku got a hat trick
last day of the season.
Yeah. So although you go out and express yourself, does that also encourage being quite loose at the back and just letting the goals? I think the message is
so.
Expect goals, but to say who will win and which way it will go again, I think we're at the mercy of whatever happens on the day as usual. But I think to expect goals is a pretty safe prediction. Let's hope that turns out.
Well, let's have a look at some of the final day goal gluts. This is going back to the 10-11 season. I believe this is any game. What is this? Any game with over 5?
Any game with 6 or more goals
on
the final
goals.
day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've highlighted Spurs here because they've been involved in 4 of those finals.
In the last 6. I think it's 4 in the last 6.
In the last
have been
6.
Spurs.
And interesting, 3 of those they've been away from home.
I remember Kane got a hat. How was it? Kane hat trick in 17-18, I think it was. Or was it Hull City? Was it? Okay, yeah. I remember one against Kasper Schmeichel where he was just awful, to be honest. He let in 3 goals.
He got one then as well. Yeah. Yeah. So Kane's record on the final day is incredible. And I think he got a hat trick 16-17 at Hull and 17-18 at Leicester, at home to Leicester.
Simone Choi, is that 10-11? That's 10-11, isn't it? Simone Choi, do you remember that from West Brom?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
They were 3-0 down.
That's it.
They were 3-0 down at half time, if I remember rightly as well.
That takes you back. I mean, you mentioned some of the weird results, Luke. I mean, 6-1 Stoke versus Liverpool. I remember that. Didn't Man City get smashed by Middlesbrough? Wasn't that on the final day as well? That's not on this list, but I remember them getting smashed by Middlesbrough.
Did it have 6 goals?
I think it was before 2010. It was under Sven. Right. It was before Sven got sacked, and I think maybe just after the money had come in for them. They got
Alfonso Alves with his World Star performance.
Yeah,
maybe
I think that was probably about the year before. But yeah, I mean, Hull City 7-1. I mean, Chelsea 5-1 against Sunderland in 2016. You kind of expect that. I mean, look at Tottenham v Leicester though. That's always been a hell of a game. 5-4 in 2017-18 and 4-2 in 2010-21. So yeah, I mean, surely if you're gonna back goals in a game, it's got to be this Spurs game against Norwich, isn't it? They could get 5 or 6 in that.
When you look at these fixtures, what's interesting about them is most of them include a strong team against a weak team, or 2 teams that are actually quite expansive. Like you've got Palace, Bournemouth there who fit that profile, and then you've got Spurs and Hull City who fit the other profile. Obviously, Stoke versus Liverpool is the outlier, I would say. So I guess you could look at these matchups and think, well, yeah, there would be goals in some of these fixtures. You'd expect Tottenham to win handsomely at Hull, for example. Do you expect Chelsea to beat Sunderland by a big margin perhaps that season? So some of them,
Chelsea beat Wigan 8-0,
we can look
someone's
at
saying in the
Gameweek
chat. I remember
38.
that as well.
Right. Okay. Well, this is
Yeah,
data I gathered this evening off a website. I can't remember which website it was, but yeah, this is just a sample,
the Man City 8-1 loss was before this. So I don't think you missed any. I think they could well have been before that. To me, 2008, 2009 still feels really like, not that long ago. But it was
last week,
bloody ages ago.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at some team data. Let's see where we think the goals might come. So we've got team data and last 6 matches like we do every week on this. Obviously, next week we'll have the final table so we can see kind of how this stacks up. We might even be able to do some kind of correlational stuff, Mark, and compare it to goals conceded and things like that, and positions in the league, and see if there's any kind of links. Yeah, very fancy. We're looking at team defence over the season. Obviously, got City still at the top, 132.6 minutes per XG conceded. Then you've got Chelsea, Liverpool, Palace in 4th, but I still think it's incredible. Tottenham, Arsenal. Looking over the last 6, you've got Liverpool at the top, and then Man City, consistent. Liverpool with 139.2 minutes per XG goal conceded non-penalty, despite being 17th on the ticker. So, people who are going in, say you've free hitted and you had Robertson and Trent, for example, and and then they're coming back into your side, or if you've kept faith with them like I have, you've got to be hopeful of a clean sheet in this game against Wolves, given Liverpool's defensive numbers. Spurs in 3rd and Palace in 4th. But looking at the other end of the table, so I thought this was quite interesting because 3 of the the 3 worst defences over the season have been Watford, Leeds, and Norwich. And has there been any improvement over the last 6 matches? No, because they're the 3 bottom teams over the last 6 as well. So again, looking at kind of, we've got a lot of data over the season. We've got the last 6 data as well. They're the 3 teams in which you think there could be some goals here. Brentford are playing Leeds, Tottenham are playing Norwich, Chelsea are playing Watford. They're the 3 games I've picked to have the most goals in.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
The whipping boys have been kind of consistently whipping boys over the season, haven't they? Norwich had a little spell where they tightened up a bit when Smith first came in. Watford have really never reacted to Hodgson in terms of performing in data-wise any better. And yeah, so we've been able to target those teams quite consistently, and it's no different final day. I guess Leeds final day need to get a victory at Brentford. Does that mean they're more open? I would argue under Jesse Marsch they've actually been a bit tighter. They play narrower. They don't play with as much width, and that's meant that they've created less. But obviously, it seems my perception is they've conceded less. Although of late that isn't the case clearly. So yeah, I think the targets are signposted. Spurs at Norwich, Chelsea home to Watford, for me, are the ones that suggest that's where the big margins of victory are going to come.
Yep. And then you look at Southampton. So Southampton over the season, 15th. That's kind of about where you'd expect them to be. But dropped down to 17th. 48.4 minutes per XG conceded compared to their season, which is 54.5. So quite a big drop in that. They're conceding
18th worst fixtures as well, though, right?
Yeah.
So that's a point. I mean,
true.
Norwich have got the 6th best fixtures, and they're still down there. That's worrying, isn't it?
It is. But I mean, yeah. I saw from that game yesterday against Liverpool that Southampton, there's Luke, you sent me over some great charts about pressing and Southampton trying to match the energy of teams and going toe to toe with them. There was none of that yesterday. Absolutely none of it. They look and without
they
that,
play completely different, didn't they?
Well, yeah, and without that, they're a team that doesn't really have any real identity, and that's the kind of team that you've got to think teams are going to pick off. I really like that Leicester at home game as well. I think those 4 teams that I've highlighted, they're the ones I would say in biggest danger of getting absolute thumbs. And I'd probably add Wolves to that as well, because if Liverpool turn up and Wolves play like they did against Man City or Norwich, I mean, we were watching match today, weren't we, Mark? And just been like, this is all Norwich. It's unbelievable. And like prime Barcelona.
The thing is, I guess, with the Liverpool-Wolves game is how much will Liverpool push for it? Right?
Yeah.
Because obviously they're going to hear about what's going on in the City game and also the Champions League final, right? So the minute, if City get 2-0 up, 3-0 up, Liverpool are obviously going to start probably bringing players off, I would have thought, ready for the Champions League. They'll start a strong team. I don't think they're ending with a strong team unless City start giving them a glint of hope, basically.
Yeah, I think it. But again, a lot of it depends on what Wolves turn up. Because if Wolves just let Liverpool play, Liverpool probably don't even need to get out of second or third gear to hit a 3 or 4 passing.
Probably not.
Looking at the attack data over the season, despite having no recognised striker, which everyone said would be their Achilles heel, Man City are top for minutes per expected goal non-pen, although of course that doesn't actually influence their conversion because they can create as many chances as they want, but they probably haven't scored as many goals as they would have wanted to do, which I assume Haaland is going to fix next season. Liverpool was second, 37.9, 0.1 difference in it, and then you've got a steep drop to Chelsea in third, 53.6. Pretty much double that, and you've got Norwich right down the bottom of the table, 101.2. So basically, Norwich aren't expected to score 1 goal a game, which is why they've been relegated, I would say. And yeah, they're going to have to massively turn that around next season in the Championship, which they are capable of doing because they've done it twice. Looking at the last 6, you've got Chelsea in third. They have had the best fixtures, but again, that's in line with their season data, encouraging against this game against Watford. Villa in 5th. Can they create some problems for Man City? Coutinho, Ings, Watkins. I mean, look at Man City's defending against West Ham. Antonio should have scored. Bowen breaking through. What do we know about City at the moment, Luke? Is Ake fit? Is Fernandinho going to play again?
Nah, he's not. He's not fizzy. That's probably one of the worst games you could pick, I think, to have not your full back 4, and it can't be underestimated. I know people. Man City got a load of money and they like to say, well, you fix it with £1 million in any position. But if you've got let's not forget, Zinchenko is a midfielder, really. He's filled in there. He is very lightweight. He's not the kind of player that Pep would have wanted to play at left back in that game. You've obviously got Laporte, who was patched up. Let's be honest, he kept going down a few times as well, and it looks ropey as if he'd even come on. And Fernandinho, he's obviously been a great servant, but he's not been playing particularly great, even when he's been in midfield of late. Really, he had like 1 decent game in this run, I think, out of all of them. And you saw that centre back pass that he did. Pep was absolutely distraught by. Doesn't look behind him. You can't blame him. He's not his position. It's not a good look, is it? And then Cancelo's obviously never really been. Defending's not really his thing. He's obviously he is good at it and he's useful at it, but you wouldn't pick him out as the man to stop West Ham's attacks, would you? You want to use him in your attacking phases. So put all that together, you're going to struggle. It doesn't matter who you are. They obviously, I think he made a bit of a mistake with that lineup personally, because he picked players like Jesus and Mahrez that are more likely to lose the ball and cause turnovers. And when you're playing with a high line and then you push against that back 4, and that's what happened. Bowen broke through and was able to score. It's almost playing into their hands a little bit. I expect him to actually play the likes of Sterling, Silva, Gundogan, try and keep the ball a bit more to stop that. And he has talked about that in the past. So I'm not trying to tell Pep how to play the game, but I feel like he probably shouldn't have picked that lineup because he's kind of asking for it. But in the end, he got the 2-2, right? And they came back. So fair enough. And what more can he do if his players aren't fit? That's what he's got. He hasn't got that many players to play there. I imagine if Ake's even slightly fit, he's going to come in at centre back. But apart from that, what else can they do to change it? There isn't anything else. There isn't any other options they've got right now.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the data, it suggests that Villa have got the weapons to cause some problems. I mean, we're all thinking, well, Villa could
I fancy him
hold
for a
out
goal.
defensively.
I think I put him down for a goal. And like I say, it does depend. If Man City don't give you the ball when they play in the way I just suggested, it might not matter. Zinchenko might not be the greatest defensively, positionally, but if they're going to hold on to the ball and he plays in midfield and they keep it, then it's not going to make too much of a difference. Have they got the pace to break? I think a lot depends on Watkins, to be honest. I think if he's fit, he can really help them. I don't think Ings is the kind of player, outside if the ball sort of falls to him in the right area, obviously, but I don't think him, Buendia, Coutinho are the kind of players that would be useful.
Well, they've got to hit on the counter. That's the only way you can get a result.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I think Watkins will be key. I think Watkins is in there. They've got a chance of scoring, but
he will be.
He was around the bush.
He played the last game. There's no reason why.
Of course, yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking maybe if he's not, if there's no reason to play him and he's still a slight knock or whatever, I expect he will be.
Gerard's gonna put out a strong team for this.
Absolutely, but I still think Man City will win. I still think they'll score 2 or 3 goals.
I've gone a bit rogue with my prediction in that game.
Ooh, okay.
To the end. Just looking at some of the team attack data. So some of the worst teams over the season. You've got Wolves and Norwich down there. Newcastle in 18th. They've improved. Now they are 14th over the last 6, but had the worst fixtures as well. But if you look at the last 6, you've got Leeds right down the bottom. So they're pretty much bottom of the defensive data and pretty much bottom of the attacking data as well, which is again why I really like Brentford buys this week. Wolves are right down there as well, despite having the 5th best fixtures. I think the Liverpool clean sheet, I don't really care who Liverpool put out. I just can't see them scoring in that match. And then Southampton as well. I mean, you've got Norwich, Southampton, Wolves and Leeds, and United. These are all teams that, to me, the data completely backs up what I'm seeing. They're just a team that just doesn't really seem to have many ideas going forward or what to do. I mean, Leeds keep getting players sent off, which doesn't help. And it's going to be a feisty game at Brentford. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Ivan Toney's comments about Leeds, and apparently there's a lot of bad blood between those clubs going back sort of many years. So I'm expecting that to be a fiery game, and there could even be some red cards in that one.
And Pontus obviously playing against his former team. I don't think he left. I think there was a scene when he left as well. I think he was a bit disgruntled, but yeah, I mean they've got a part. I mean, yeah, it could be fireworks, and obviously Leeds have got all the motivation they need. Brentford are the home team and will also have motivation, so that could be a game of goals. I think I predicted a few goals in that one.
Yep. I'm being told by Sim that I hate City. Add them to the list. I don't think I've had me hating City. I get it for about every other club. I don't particularly like City. I don't hate them. I admire what Pep's done there, but I'd like to see the underdog win. Obviously, I'd like to see Liverpool win on the last day. But it's all about the story, isn't it?
It is.
Yep. Okay, so we've got some sort of player data now. I've got season and last six. I thought we could just look at the keepers. We can look at the keepers. Just look at the players over the season. Just reflect a little bit about how we think they've got on. I've just marked some out, and then we'll look at kind of over the last six to try and find some gems for game week 38. So looking at goalkeepers over the season, I wanted to highlight Ramsdale in sixth with 22.3 minutes per points, and Pickford down in 20th. With 26.8, and I'll just switch over to the keepers over the last six because it's completely flipped round. Pickford is in third over the last six with 17.5, and look at that, Mark. It's your best mate, Grimsdale. Over the last 6 game weeks, there is not a worse goalkeeper that you could have picked than Aaron Ramsdale, who's third for the season. I mean,
it's funny, isn't it?
Crazy turnaround.
It is really, and I think we're putting together like our team of the season for the FPL show this week, and we've been asked not.
Let me guess, you're not going to put Grimsdale in.
No, I think we would. I think I would,
Really?
Because it's not based on our own. It can be based on points, but it's also just your general perception of that player and that. And I think when Ramsdale came in, he did kind of shake the goalkeeper position up a bit. It's often a position we look at and go, well, there is no essential player. You can get a decent 4-5 or a decent pair in. He came in at 4-5 and broke into that Arsenal team straight away. And suddenly there was like those who moved to him early, like yourself, and those who kind of persisted or went elsewhere, like myself and Luke. And we were badly punished by that.
We got destroyed for weeks on end.
Yeah.
It was like 60 points difference or something, like mental.
Yeah. Yeah, so he represents for me. I mean, it's not a positive thing, but I've got to acknowledge the fact that he has been a big player in fantasy this season. It has all gone wrong though recently. You can't question that. I guess that coincides with the injuries at the back for Arsenal, right? And lack of confidence as a result of those injuries. Tierney was a big loss, right? I think they won at Villa 1-0. Tierney got the injury in that game, and ever since then they've been really vulnerable.
It's also on the goalkeeper metrics though. He's just not performed well. Outside of just the general defence, it's really strange. Because I mean, we've seen this before with him, and people attributed that to him being young and playing for Bournemouth doesn't help your cause a lot of the time, does it? But yeah, we have seen this before where he's looked very, very good, and then he's also looked pretty poor. I mean, obviously when he signed for Arsenal, a lot of fans didn't want it, did they? They were almost devastated, and then suddenly it was the best thing, and people calling for England, and then
now he's dropped again. Yeah.
I suspect the truth is, as usual, somewhere in the middle, but it's been. It's a bit of a wild ride from him this season, definitely. And he's certainly annoyed me like Mark because I've lost out on about 60 points. And this is the whole thing where you how long do you hold out for being stubborn? And then when you go there, often if you go there, I end up going at the end of the run and then I don't get any benefit from it. So for me, you either go early or not at all. And it's very hard to get that balance right of am I just being too stubborn and I've just got to concede? And I hate that. I often get that timing wrong. I don't know how Mark feels, but he obviously didn't get it right either in that one. But usually across the season, there's a few of these players that do this to us. And the timing is incredibly hard.
If you look at this season data, the top keepers, you look at Alisson, you look at Ederson, you look at Lloris, they are your top tier keepers. Lloris may be middling at 5-5. I think he was 5-5, wasn't it, at the start of the season? There isn't a 4-5 other than Ramsdale who's kind of broken into that. Sarr and Ramsdale are the two.
Well, there's
but they've both
Ray is there.
gone through. Ray is there for it, yeah, but he had that injury, that spell of injury, hasn't he? So he hasn't been able to be our consistent go-to over the season. I think you could have moved back to him, and some did, I guess. But I think Ray's injury coincided when Ramsdale came to the fore. So we have had to move our 4-5 goalkeeper about a bit to catch the sweet spot. It's not been easy just to go, I'm going to get these two, and they're going to be my one-stop shop for the season. And we've had that in the past, but we haven't had it this season.
Sanchez in particular was obviously very favourite at the beginning, and it just didn't work out at all. I think Sarr's obviously had ridiculous overperformance. I don't know how it happened, but you can see in the stats there with 7.8 on the XGP.
Yeah.
Especially his first half of the season was mental. I think it's one of the metrics that I was looking at is one of the best sort of performances by a goalkeeper like ever in the Premier League in terms of the data, which was mostly down to luck, I think, as well. It's just crazy. Like, we get this all the time. Martinez last season, nothing's really changed. I know now they've changed their manager towards the back end, but people were really considering getting Martinez in his 5.5 at the beginning of the season because he was so ludicrous the season before. I personally never saw that. I didn't think he could possibly match that again, but there was a big trail of thought that could be the case, and people did look to pick him in, especially when he had 3 good games to start the season. That's just not materialised ever. I do think every season there is a hell of a lot of luck when it comes to goalkeepers. I think you pick a 4.5 and you just have to get lucky that you got the right one.
I think this table is interesting to look at the end of the season because you look at someone like Alisson, 18.2 minutes per points, and then you look at some of the, someone like Ramsdale, 22.3. There's a bit of a difference there, but you'd expect that given that Alisson's playing one of the best events. But there's a lot of money difference in it, 4.5 compared to 6. But then you look at, from 6 down, Ramsdale, right the way down to you could almost say down to Sanchez,
not
for
much
example,
in
in 17th. I mean, you're looking at barely anything. Really,
No.
This is why you just try and find that 4.5 gem and hope that they just deliver for you all season. You don't have to think about it. And Ramsdale has to be the goalkeeper of the season for me because
yeah, exactly. I think so.
I just didn't have to worry about that position for so long. And I think people who had Guaita or even Sarr or other goalkeepers,
you have to mention Guaita.
Well, Guaita honestly had the chance to be he should have been the best on the data. If you look at it, he was in the top 5 or 6, wasn't he, across the season? I know towards the back end, Butland's come in 2 or 3 times. But he should have been the one, and he just wasn't at all.
But look at his XGP; it's disappointing, -4.1, right? So he should have conceded 4 goals less than he has, and they don't concede big chances. If you look at the last 6 data for Palace, they haven't conceded one single big chance in the last 6 game weeks, right? That no other defence has done that. So they've been really good at restricting the quality of chance, but they've still conceded odd goals. Set pieces have been an issue, and they've been a very frustrating
They are the most
defense.
frustrating goalkeepers because all the stats point to them getting points and then they just never do. And you don't know what to do with them because as soon as you sell them, they're probably going to go on a run because all the stats indicate they're a good defensive side. You don't want to make a goalkeeper transfer, but you end up stuck with them.
Yeah, but Pope and Martinez really have failed, haven't they? They have. As 5.5 and £5 million options. They got the price hike to 5.5 and haven't justified it at all. So we've definitely got to be wary of take that into next season because we expect Ramsdale to go up, don't we? He'll be 5 million at least, I imagine. Jose Sarr will be. He was at 5 anyway, wasn't he? So I
imagine Sarr will stay at 5. Martinez will come down to 5 probably as well.
It's also what it limits in the rest of your team, right? If you're paying that money, 5.5, you've done yourself out of points in the attacking positions, and as this table says, they were also close anyway. It almost didn't matter. I think the lesson for this season was you should have just picked one and just left him in. Barely made a difference.
It's all academic because if Forest come up, we all know who's gonna be in goal.
After his heroics last
that was a fantastic performance.
Only one,
to be fair. Just one player I want to mention before we move on has to be Meslier, right down the bottom, 24th. The worst performing goalkeeper of all the kind of mainstay goalkeepers. Luke, you had good success with him last season. You were tempted by him this season, I think. I mean, -6. He's conceded 16 goals more than he should have done.
Absolutely. And I just thought saves, you can get him in and he could do okay. And it's just, I mean, Leeds have had a lot of injuries as well, haven't they? But repeating the same stuff.
Minutes per save and minutes per BPS, he is strong. Right? He's the strongest for minutes per baseline BPS other than Alvaro Fernandez. And minutes per save, 23.2 is right up there as well. In fact, that's only second to some second string keepers. So of the first choice keepers, he's got the best minutes per save. and the best minutes per BPS. But it's that 16.8. Clearly, is that him at fault? Is it purely the least defence and the volume of chances? Probably a bit of both.
Both, I think. I don't think he's had a good season.
I do think if Palace look to buy another keeper, because I don't think I mean, I know it's only -4, but I don't think he is the best keeper long term. I think that if they were to bring a keeper in, that would highly interest me. I just wonder if it would be 5. Do you think they would put him to 5, or because they've although the data's been good, they haven't actually kept that many clean sheets. So imagine maybe 4.5 again.
4.5, I think.
That
If Ramsdale comes in at 4.5, then
I can't see that.
Ramsdale will be 5, and the Palace keeper will be.
No, I mean, this season he
and
came
that
in
could
at
be the
4.5.
bargain. He did, yeah, but that was an oversight, wasn't it? I can't believe we spent 15 minutes on keepers.
There you go. I know that's just what I bring. Okay, let's look at defenders then. Defenders over the season. Just to highlight some of the main guys that we've had. Obviously, Trent's at the top. This is filtered by minutes per expected goal of over non-pen. Trent's at the top. Who would ever have predicted that? Just another amazing season from him for Liverpool and for FPL sides. Reece James in third. He's been last season we saw glimmers of it. This season he's come in. He's done. I don't think there's been a more divisive figure though in the community than Reece James, because some people hate him and have only had blanks from him, one or two pointers. Others have sort of managed to nail every haul that he's got. But you can't.
I've got every haul, but also every blank.
Have you? Okay, you just had him the whole time. Yeah.
I've said it before. Let's not be around that run of like 15, 20 games where he barely got a point is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe that happened. And I understand he had injury issues and he can play at centre back and all that stuff that occurred. And they did have other injuries in the team. But that variance is nuts for me. For someone that high on this chart, and we're talking about a team who can hit 10 to 15 clean sheets, that run is just incredibly unlucky. And for me, it's another almost Guita, where the stats say he's good, and he is a good pick. And I have no doubt in my mind that he is going to be a top-tier pick for many seasons to come, as long as he's playing in that position for Chelsea. And surely we can't get another 20 weeks of that. Some people, like Digne, one of these guys who's almost had that around him for many, many seasons. I hope that isn't the case for Reece James. I can't see it. I think he's going to be ridiculous.
I mean, I'd say Reece James and Ramsdale were the catalyst to my season, because I got them on that wild card and just kind of never looked back. Mark, you have less fond memories of of the Chelsea defence, unfortunately, because you had about everyone but Reece James during the period when he was scoring every week.
Exactly, I missed them, and also I went Gaeta with my wild card over Ramsdale, so I went the opposite of you. I missed the James and Chilwell returns, and I didn't get Ramsdale at all. And I think that was the point where our seasons went in opposite directions. But exactly that, we were pretty even until that point. What I want to raise here is, I think something we already know, right? The wing back, continual rise of the wing back in significance is demonstrated by this data. The only centre back who gets anywhere near challenging for minutes per extra non-penalty is Laporte. All of the, look at those players. Every single one is a wing back, and that is because two reasons: wing backs are getting more forward, and obviously getting into goal scoring opportunities, but also setting up more chances. So therefore, they're getting more XGI in terms of assists as well as shots on goal. But also, I think the centre back is diminished as a goal threat in terms of teams that are able to harness that. It seems that's my feeling as the seasons go by.
They get all the space, don't they? Now in football, that's where the space is, like literally for wing backs and full backs, and then a lot of them take the corners and set pieces as well.
Yeah,
but that's what I was about to say. Look, the fact is that there is this, wing backs and full backs now is almost one and the same thing, because obviously Tuchel plays with the wing back formation with James and Chilwell, but there's not a lot of difference in James compared to Cancelo, who isn't a wing back. He's a full back, or Trent or Robertson. They just fly and bomb forward now for these top teams.
They're so ball dominant that they're sat in the wing position for a lot of the game, aren't they? It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same next season, even more so. I don't know how they tackle this. I really don't, because maybe the 5 sub thing will impact wing backs more because they'll be subbed off, but it won't matter if they're subbed off after the clean sheet is achieved that much. It'll only dent.
They have to price them as midfielders.
Well, maybe. I mean that puts Trent at what? 9.5?
8.5, yeah. 8.5. I can't see Trent being any less than 8.
He's got to be 9. He's got to be 9, hasn't he?
I think
there's absolutely no chance.
No
chance.
What, he'll be that high? Well, no, because they'll want everyone to be able to get him. They'll want everyone to be able to get James, Cancelo, and Trent. or at least two of those.
Yeah, you won't be
three.
able to if you've then got Haaland, Salah, and one of Son.
Well, we've been here before.
We have been here
Who
before.
knows?
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I think the pricing that coming up is probably the hardest set of pricing and one of the most important and significant for where this game goes from this point on. And I'm glad I'm not involved in it. So
you can't even put a call in, Mark.
No.
Down the other end of this list, I just highlighted Luke Shaw because he was in about every single draft for every single manager that I saw going into the season. 22nd on the list in terms of minutes per expected goal non-penalty, 535.8. But look at that, 34.8 minutes of points. When he's been on the pitch, he's got nothing. He's got 3 assists all season, no goals. Been shocking, right?
Again, he did fit the mould, though. He was at that price, playing in that position. Obviously, we couldn't ever anticipate how terrible Man United would be, but he also takes the corners. So I think he's was a little bit unlucky, but injuries are there as well.
Everything's unlucky, isn't it?
I do think he was. I think pre-season, there's a reason why. I know a lot of people went there because of England. I'm not going to dispute that, but I also think a lot of the top players went there, and there is a reason why they went there. 5 million set pieces.
I think a lot of the reason why people went for Shaw was fear because everyone had him.
Quite possibly, I can't speak for everyone, but I never picked him out of fear. I picked him because I thought he was a good option. I was wrong, but
They had good fixtures. United started strongly, didn't they? And there was the England thing, there was the EO thing. So there was a lot of factors in that as well. Yeah. One player I want to talk about there is Trippier as well. I mean, surely his price isn't going to go up much. Newcastle are going to strengthen further. He's going to be a very, very good option as well, isn't he? I think we're looking at back fives next year. I think a 5-4-1, and if they don't populate the forwards with more players, 5-4-1 is or 4-5-1. They're going to be the two most popular formations, I would have thought, because I think the defenders are going to offer really good value still, and the idea of going three premiums, two cheaper players, may be phased out because there's players like Trippier around for 5 million who you're going to want.
Well, I think Luke said it amazingly well on a podcast a few weeks ago, which was, would you rather have Che Adams at 6 or Reece James? Like there's no choice between some of the 6'5" forwards and some of these wing backs if the prices stay kind of the way they are. So there's absolutely no reason why you'd pick a crappy forward over when you could go 5 at the back with these players that are scoring huge every week.
Yeah, I would say now that most teams at the start of the season will have a 4-5 forward in them. No one's going to have 3 playing forwards. Maximum
No way.
2. So
No way.
It'll be Haaland and Mitrovic, and a 4-5 probably will be the really popular setup.
I think so as well. Yep. Looking at defenders over the last 6, let's try and look at some form going into Gameweek 38. And number 1 is actually someone I really like the look of this week, which is Ryan Sessegnon. Good season data, which we just shown on the last table before. Minutes per expected goal of non-pen of 191 puts him ahead of Alonso in second with 208.7. So quite a big jump between him and Alonso. You've got Kulusevski, you've got Son, you've got Kane. Quite a few people have gone off Kulusevski because of that kind of injury news. If you're in the market for a new defender, Luke, Ryan Sessions up there. I mean, you've always been a Reguilon fanboy, but surely you go Session over Royale given that Reguilon's out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's more about the formation. Whoever's played there has done pretty well. Some of them have tried their best to mess that up because they're not quite up to it. But Sessegnon's obviously showing some great signs, and it's an absolutely fantastic fixture. I think at 4.3, it's ridiculous value. Not that we're looking for value at this point in the season, but if there is a defender out there that probably most people don't own, because I think a lot will own the likes of Trent and Alonso and etc. Sessegnon is very much the obvious defender that you would bring in this week. I think
he's an easy move for a lot of people, right? If you've got that kind of 4.5 defender, Ben White
Absolutely.
or someone like that, it's just a nice easy move if the rest of your team is sorted.
I still prefer. I don't know if Alonso's going to play, but I would prefer Alonso just simply because he's got a history of massive goal threat, and obviously the fixture I'd argue is actually probably better. Maybe that's debatable. But yeah, Sessegnon outside of Alonso. Like if I was going to stick the captain's armband on a defender, and I think that is a viable option because we know they have ridiculous haul potential. Like if you are looking for that 24 points like Trent got once or whatever, it doesn't happen all the time. But when you've got the clean sheet and the extra points for the goals, they have got the highest ceiling in the game. And a player like Alonso, you think, well, he could get a free kick, he could score, he could just play up front the whole game. It could be 8-0 that game. He could be ridiculous. So I really like him. Obviously Trent, Cancelo, they all fit the mould, but Sessegnon against Norwich, you have to fancy him for something in that game. And if nothing else, the clean sheet data looks very, very good for them. So a pretty safe and possibly explosive pick.
Yep.
So yeah, I love it.
I just wanted to highlight Matip and SuperChats as well. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say Alonso's the one with the big ceiling, obviously. I think.
Do you think he'll play?
Games, I would say.
Yeah.
I suppose we don't know, do we?
I think he will. I don't see an option really. I mean, why? He's in. I guess he's in the shop window.
It'll be his final game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd expect him. It's a farewell. I mean, it's funny. I don't know what his relationship with the fans is really. I'm not a Chelsea fan. I don't know what they think of him. We judge him as an FPL asset, which is probably a lens which most Chelsea fans don't apply to him. So. Has he been a favourite? I don't think so. I think
over most level-headed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most level-headed Chelsea fans will respect what he's done over the years, but they know his limitations as well as I'm pretty sure he does as well. But
played well in the cup final though, didn't he? He had a really good game again.
He's done very well for them at points during his career for Chelsea. Yeah, I think he's been a pretty good servant overall, but obviously the relationship with Tuchel's not great, is it, according to reports, and now he's probably off. Sol's on loan, isn't he? And then they've got Sarr, who's a kid, so do you just think, well, if they've got nothing to play for, it's an easy game, do you put Sarr in just to blood him? I honestly don't know, but I've seen some Chelsea fans suggest as much. We don't know the lineups tomorrow either, do we? So there's that.
I think he plays. I think he plays in that game.
This is farewell.
I would hope so.
But I mean, I would rather have Reece James. I mean, I haven't got this data actually on the screen, but Watford, over the last 6, they're second worst for chances conceded down their left flank.
Oh, they've been weak down that left side all season.
They're joint first actually. Both Watford and Burnley.
They're weak everywhere.
86.
Left flank.
To be fair, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think their worst phase down the left was when Danny Rose was in the side and Salah absolutely.
Oh god, that was tragic.
And then, I mean, the gulf there. I mean, Danny Rose did not look like a Premier League footballer in that game.
So 86 crosses conceded down the left is level with Burnley. The next worst is Everton with 77. Chances conceded down the left flank over the last 6, 36. The next worst is Norwich with 28. So they are by some distance the worst team, down that side. So
and they need Holebas in to break a few legs.
Oh yeah,
Holebas, what a player!
He was great. He was just smashing the odd he was on free kicks.
Still do a job. He was about 40 when he was playing. He still do a job now, I reckon.
For Watford at the moment, yes.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could. Just before we move on this, I just wanted to mention Matip and SuperChats as well. Matip's just been a gem that no one really seems to have got on. I mean, I'm sure there's people listening who've had him, but I think particularly since Christmas, 2 goals in his last 6 starts, 5.2 million. Even last night, the likes of Robertson and Trent missing out, and he comes in and scores. He got that assist in the double. So he's been a great buy. 12.6 minutes per points is the highest of all defenders over the last 6. So good job if you got him in. And then just another reminder from SuperChats. I mean, 3.7 million. I think he'd start for almost any other side in the Premier League. He's that good. And I think that is one of the problems with Robertson is that you've got that kind of able deputy, but he hasn't featured too much. But I wonder if there might be a bit more shared minutes between them going forward, given how good he is.
Difficult, isn't it? I mean, I wonder how happy he is in that role, playing 6 or 7 starts a season, more or less what he's been getting. When he can certainly get 35 starts in any other Premier League team, I would say.
United snap him. Imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of teams who would have him straight away. You can see his numbers in attacking terms are up there with Robertson. He can match him in that respect, but perhaps he's not as strong defensively. And he hasn't got that legacy that Robertson's got. So I don't see him having more starts next season, really.
No.
That's it.
No. I'd be interested to see just how good he is defensively, because it is hard to tell in a team like that, isn't it? So you wonder.
Yeah. Well, because he's often given the easiest games to play, because that's when they're resting Robertson.
Absolutely. And Robertson's, up there in the top 3 left-backs in the world, isn't he? So keeping this squad's happy. It's actually really impressive how they do it. Because like how does Simicast not want to try and spread out? And same with Pep. I know people point the fingers, but you have to keep world-class players on the bench every week, and that's what it's about now for these top teams. It's incredible.
Five subs will help next season.
Yeah, true. He'll get more minutes. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, let's move to midfielders then. Midfielder of the season. I think we would all have guessed Salah is in number one. 108.4 minutes, which we did go on over non-pen. I mean, he has been disappointing, I would say, since Christmas. He had that one massive haul against United. The Leeds, the big double game, was that after Christmas? Or
yeah.
it was after Christmas. Yeah. So he's had those kind of two big game week calls, but a lot of games he hasn't really delivered, and he's been, Luke, you've had bad experience with him captain and things like that. So obviously a brilliant season from 22 goals, 14 assists, unbelievable. But he has frustrated a little bit at times, which is, maybe just shows how high his levels are. A couple I wanted to point out. I mean, Foden's in 7th with 136.8. I was doing the stream with Gianni earlier, and we were just looking at some of the players that have bigger points totals than him. Ward-Prowse, Trossard, all outscored Foden this season. Again, 9 goals, 6 assists for the player spearheading City's attack. It's not an amazing return for him, I don't think. He's been a great player for City, instrumental in their probable title success. But FPL-wise, I was expecting more from him.
I expected him to break out and be the City weapon of choice, but it's still De Bruyne. It's still De Bruyne, isn't it? Which is a bit frustrating. And going into next season, again, I've said this before, unless they shake up the positioning and Mane, Salah, Son aren't midfielders, I don't know if we're going to go forward with a City midfielder from game week 1 onwards. Depends on the fixtures. But if if we're looking at a City midfielder, it's still De Bruyne. I still don't think you're going to look at a Mahrez, a Foden or Grealish next season, particularly with Haaland as an option up front. So it's disappointing in that we can't really consider Man City midfielders again next season based on what we've seen, this season, unless you are going to outlay in De Bruyne and forego another heavy hitter. Yeah. I don't think many will.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of goings and comings apparently, isn't there? Gundogan might be off. There's a few things like Jesus might be going. So some spaces will open up, and it's just, I said it before in the last pod, with Pep, you never quite know. You can never say for sure that X player is going to play in certain position. Silva moved from the front three to a centre midfielder this season. Next season he could be in the front three again for most of the games. Foden could end up taking over Gundogan in the centre at some point. I think a lot of Man City fans have got long-term thoughts that might occur. I don't think he's quite ready for that yet, but it was also mentioned when Grealish signed that he can play in that position as well, and he'd even tried him up front a few times, so we just don't know. I think we will have... I think, as ever, people will be put off, but there'll be many times throughout the season where we'll want to go there, especially if Haaland is 12, 13 million or whatever, and they've got a double. You want to pair him with a midfielder, don't you, to try and get the upside? And yeah, sometimes it's fool's gold, but Foden's data has still been very, very good. And interesting with him as well, he actually had a pretty damn good goal scoring record in his youth career, and even when he was used more sparingly, he used to score quite often. And I don't think that's bad by any means, but looking at the data and the team he plays with, he should have scored more, I think.
Well, look at Grealish this season. Look how his output's gone down. Look, the other player I want to mention is Havertz. This was meant to be a breakout season, a big season for him. 7 goals, 4 assists. Is that a breakout season?
I guess he only really broke in kind of after Christmas, right? So he only really had half a season kind of in the side.
You see him kicking on next season? You see him getting double figures? Like Mount's 11-11. Do you reckon he'll get to that next season?
It's going to depend on Lukaku again, isn't it? I think his season got curtailed by Lukaku, and then also he had some bad luck with injuries. But there's only so many excuses you can make, I guess. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Lukaku. Does he stay?
If Havertz plays at 9 for a whole season, I can see him doing it. If he ends up playing sort of closer to midfield, he's not going to be a factor.
If he gets priced as a striker, if he gets changed to a forward, then I don't think he's even in the conversation.
Yeah,
they lost Chilwell and James. Let's not forget that affected them really badly. So if they've got those two back and he's a midfielder, and he's playing as a false nine, I will be interested again. I can tell you now.
But the thing is, I think the Chelsea midfield is similar to City. I think when you put together the fact that we're going to want Son and Salah if they're midfielders, and you got the likes of Bowen in there as well, who's probably what's Bowen on this season. Like, he'll go up to 7.58, but we'll still look at Bowen, won't we? For sure. Look at his output.
Well, I
don't know if we're going to go a Chelsea midfielder either.
No, I don't think you need to. Not when you've got the wing backs. Not when you've got the wing backs to choose from.
No, I think it's going to be reserved for like I said, the special sort of runs or the doubles that you bring him in, because there's probably just likely to be too much rotation in those areas from the top three teams. Everything we saw this season suggests it. Liverpool weren't really that way, but then they've now added a lot of firepower. So I guess you've got to start putting them in that category.
The thing is, though, what we've just said about City and Chelsea midfielders, it just helps make the template so robust, because we should be considering City and Chelsea midfielders because the game and the pricing is forcing us to, but we're not. And these are midfielders in top teams that were just going, no, I don't want them. It's easier to go to wing backs, and it's easier to go Haaland over the midfielders.
Well, you can't go any City midfielders with 5 subs.
No,
well, he doesn't make subs.
Reason. No,
Pep doesn't make any subs.
That's true. Yeah, I guess
he barely makes any.
And you could say the same for Chelsea midfielders as well. Mount has been the most nailed, but even he has missed some key games, and that's going to continue with the 5 subs for sure. So that is a factor as well.
Yeah. You touched on him quickly before we move off this. We've got to talk about Bowen. I mean, there's other players that we can mention who've had great seasons. Maddison, 10 goals, 10 assists, 20 attacking returns for him. He's won their player of the season. This is kind of finally his kind of big breakout fantasy season, as well as his, actual performances on the pitch. Even though Leicester have struggled, he's been brilliant. We could talk about Saka as well. Only he was like 6.5 million, something like that. 11 goals, 8 assists. Another sort of great season for him. But I mean, we've got to talk about Bowen because
17 assists.
No, Saka.
No, Bowen.
Bowen. Yeah.
If you remember, Cresswell got loads last season, and he took set pieces, and then Bowen's took over from him. So maybe there's a lesson there. Maybe there's variance there, but West Ham have got a lot of height, don't they? So it's maybe lends it to itself.
I'm going to drink every time you mention variance. But 12 goals, 17 assists. I mean, that is... I mean, we were all on Ben... Well, Mark, you were early adopter of Ben Rama. I was a 2-week in adopter of Ben Rama. You thought that it was going to be Ben Rama's season, but
he turned out to train, didn't he?
Yeah, it turned out to be Bowen. I think there were signs of it, weren't there, quite early on. We were kind of watching it and thinking, actually, this Bowen guy is pretty good. Like, there's a lot riding on it, but I mean...
His data was as good as Ben Rama all season, I think.
Yeah,
and he wasn't getting the returns.
30 attacking returns though, in 38 games, and he was injured for a 5 or 6 game weeks as well. So he's almost returned every game, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be our third midfielder after Son, Salah. It'll be Bowen, and then we'll be looking at probably.
But how much? I mean, 8 million, I'd say would be the lower end. I wouldn't be too surprised if he came in a bit more.
Well, hopefully that's the case, and hopefully you have to make it. It's a dilemma whether you go with Bowen or not. That's what we want, right? We don't want the ability to get all the best players and then be picking 4 or 5 midfielders or 4 or 5 defenders as our differential. So I do hope they stick Bowen at a price which gives us a problem, right? We want that. I would say we want that. We don't want it to be too easy to just pick 7 or 8 players and then it's like, well, how do I use up what I've left in my budget? But that's the fear. Right?
I guess the problem is if they put him too high though, then you're going to miss out on and you have to go down to the 5 or 6 million mark because you've got Haaland, Son, and thingy. Then you're just not going to go near that because I mean, you think about this season. There's not really been anyone in the 8 to 9 million bracket that's really kind of come through because they've been a bit too expensive when the 6.5, 7 millions have been performing well, or you've had to go up to the kind of 11, 12. So it's a tricky price. That right?
We had that debate about Foden and Jota, and they've both been flirting with our teams throughout the season, but they're not been consistent enough with either starts or with their returns. And so the 8.5 to 9.5 bracket hasn't been great because that's a lot of the rotation fears and the City midfielders with Mahrez, Sterling, Grealish, but also Jota and Foden haven't really delivered over sustained periods.
Yep.
Just on Bowen, he got 17.38 expected goal involvement across the season, and he got 22 goals and assists. So it's only an over. I mean, you'd expect in a season like that, anyone who has a fantastic season usually has some overperformance, right? But it's only by 4 goals according to the data. So that's pretty damn impressive.
The signs are there that he can do it again next season, basically. Or
Yeah.
get
Saka's
close
data
to it.
again, like we just mentioned, is right up there across the season. I think there's more
Yeah.
to come from him potentially.
Yeah, I mean Saka and Bowen could get better next season. You'd expect it, wouldn't you? Both of them.
But they're both going to
Yeah,
come. They're both going to come in at 8 plus.
I'd love it if Rafinha signed for someone as well. I think he's wasted at Leeds now. I think he's in that
Yeah.
mould where take some set pieces.
He's agreed
Obviously-
personal terms with Barcelona, I think I read.
Oh, is he?
I
Okay,
think so.
I didn't know that. But I suppose if he goes to a top team, you can't pick him because you rotate. You'd want him at the likes of West Ham or something, wouldn't you? But yeah,
I guess you're going to be hard pressed not to look at Guimaraes as well, as a little bit of loyalty there. Maybe you're gonna.
Oh, Ramirez.
Smith Rowe straight in.
Guimaraes, Bruno Guimaraes.
Oh, Bruno Ramirez. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what his price is going to be. I mean, he's going to be 6.5, something like that.
Nah, I reckon 6.
I mean, if he comes in at 6, I think he's going to be an absolutely incredible enabler. I mean, there were signs in that game against Arsenal that he was playing a deeper role, but I think that's because Shelby was out, and he was kind of having to hold a bit more. He wasn't getting us forward as much. But when they play with a proper DM who just covers that base and he bombs forward, he could be an option. I mean, he's had 5 goals, 1 assist this season. In not that many games. I mean, he's a player that could get 15 attacking returns next season, I think.
The other one that's going to improve is surely Diaz as well, right? So I wonder whether they're going to set it up so you either go Son and Salah, or you go the likes of Diaz, Bowen, and maybe a Jota, and you take more risks in midfield. It will take some balls to do that, because going without Salah and Son if they're midfielders is going to be tough to do. But I do think there's enough talent in midfield where you could look at Saka, Bowen, Diaz, players who perhaps aren't going to be high. They're not going to be the first choice in midfield, but they're going to be maybe second tier down, and you could forego one of Son and Salah and maybe try and strike gold.
I wonder if Diaz could be that guy that you go Diaz over Salah and you use that money elsewhere. I do want that, because I mean the thing is we're all going to have Haaland. Let's be honest, unless he's injured or starts the season injured or something like that.
I don't know.
Really, you'd go without Haaland? I mean, I
maybe you're talking to me. I start seasons without Salah sometimes.
I just can't see any reality in which if City have a fully fit Haaland, you don't start the season with him, and then that's pretty much your captain sorted every week. So
I probably will, but I'm not saying I definitely will, because I still hold on to the fact that the wing backs are too good and the midfielders are the most powerful position. So the strikers, yes, it makes sense because he's probably going to be the standout, but the likes of Pookie and Bamford at 5.5, they just end up being value every season, and we end up navigating and moving towards that. What happens if he gets injured? We already talked about his record last season. I don't know. I'm not saying categorically. I will never say yes now until I've seen the fixtures, the price.
It's like, do you want Haaland, or do you want James, Trent, and Cancelo, and then maybe risk that a mid-price or a lower tier striker?
You can have them both.
This
is what I'm saying. You could have them both.
Hopefully not.
If you went Salah down to Diaz, that's my point.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that's your 5 million saving to upgrade your 5.5s up to a 7. That's what I mean. I don't think you can't do Salah, Haaland, and then James, Robertson, Trent.
Well, you say you can't do. I really hope you can't.
You might be able to. Yeah, absolutely.
You can only captain one player as well. Remember.
Well, that's what I mean.
As good as he can be at 13 million, if you're not going to be putting the armband on it, it's not going to be valued.
That's very true. And if you've got Salah and Son, looking at Haaland over those two midfielders.
This is like Fernandes all over again at the start of the season.
Well,
yeah.
And you were so
right.
You were so right about that, but not when it mattered in game week 1.
Not on the opening week.
Yeah. Let's take a look at midfielders over the last 6. Again, let's try and get some form going into the final game. So Diaz, I think, is an interesting one. I've marked him in 6th. I mean, if we're assuming Liverpool go full strength in this one after resting their entire team against Southampton, and I think they do go full strength. They've got 6 days for the Champions League final. I think they, there might be some early subs, but
they'll start full strength.
Yeah, I think they start full strength. So I think that puts Diaz in 145.9 minutes per expected goal avoid non-penalty is really nice. Look at him in 9th. It's my mate Harvey Barnes. 8.5 minutes per point is the best of all players over the last 6 game weeks. How is that possible?
6 attacking returns in 3 starts is strong.
It's so annoying. I can't even begin. And then you've got and Son is the same 8.5. So Barnes has matched Son in terms of minutes per points over the last 6. I mean, the problems have been the starts. He's only had 3 starts, so that's where the kind of again is a bit of a small sample size. But is he an option? Is he realistically someone that you might consider buying this week, Luke? I mean, you're coming off the free hit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if he starts, why not? It's a great fixture. I'm really upset I have to give him back because obviously it's free hit. I'd love to be able to keep him, and we'll see when we get to my team. But a lot comes down to whether Salah's fit or not. Right? If he's out, then there's a very obvious move to me, which is to Son, which is it feels like that's boring to get Son and captain him, but I think that's probably the optimal play. But I could say, well, screw that. I'll get Barnes and put him as captain. I'm not totally against that. I think there's a few names that we're going to mention on that stuff, so like Pulisic.
You'd have him over Maddison, would you?
I think Maddison is a better pick overall. I just think that in a one-off game, you can go for either, and I think Barnes is fine.
Do you agree with that, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at one of those two, probably with one of my transfers, because I do think the Southampton game is strong. Leicester seem to have their tails up, and those two have got form coming out of the Watford game. And Southampton arguably is just as easy a home game as the Watford away game was. I guess I will try and... it's a one game, right? Maddison probably is better pick long term, but this isn't long term. This is a one-off match, so Barnes could easily outscore him as he did at Watford. So I will probably go with the one which I think is going to help me most in terms of rank, which would probably be Barnes, to be honest. Yeah,
I can't believe I had him and sold him before this, and now everyone's talking about him again. I think that Leicester Southampton game. I think you need to have one player. You need to have one of those two, or Vardy, if you're really going to go for it.
I think the big thing has been Vardy coming back after a big rest, and we see this over and over with Vardy. Is when he usually at the start of the season, when he's had a long time off, he does pretty well, and then he gets injured, and then his season ends. And he's come back after a long period out. And I mentioned about their formations changing and their changing personnel and everything. As soon as they've gone back to, we're out of Europe, we're going to pick our best team. Vardy's going to be up top. They've looked a far better side. And I know the fixtures have contributed to that, obviously, but I think it does make a big difference. So, yeah, Vardy, Barnes, Maddison, if they play, is just a very good team. And I think I said it last week.
The only thing that puts me off Barnes is he's got the Lookman factor, and he all Brighton as well. There's rivals for his
and
minutes.
The formation switch in that up front.
So Barnes has got an hour to do something, otherwise he's probably hooked. Whereas Maddison and Vardy don't have that. Yeah, I wouldn't have said so. And Maddison certainly hasn't. I don't think.
I think the thing with Barnes and Vardy though is you look at the numbers of when Barnes starts alongside Vardy, and he's so improved, like it's ridiculous. Because Vardy is so good at occupying space, running off defenders, and that just frees up so much space down that wing for Barnes to run into. When they've got
central areas,
when they've got like an Iheanacho or a Daka who's quite not as kind of mobile as Vardy is, it means Barnes has got to beat a man or do something, and he's been struggling with that of late, and he's been struggling that in Europe as well. So I think it's big for them to have Vardy back, definitely for owners of Barnes. One thing I want to mention here just quickly is look at De Bruyne. De Bruyne in 8th, minutes per expected goal for non-penalty, 149.3. 148.4. I mean, it's not terrible by any means, but he's got 4 goals in one game. You'd at least expect him to be in the top 5. He's below Trossard, Cornet, Havertz, all these guys. Again, it just reiterates me that Wolves game was an anomaly. You talk about variance, Luke. That game was pure bloody variance, that was.
Well, this is with De Bruyne. His stats have never been quite up there with the other top premiums. He just always seems to find a way, and usually it's through either in the past penalties or just bonus points by sheer chance creation. Any attacking return comes with an extra 3 on top. But now, and this is why I say about that formation he changed against Wolves, and he does do this versus a back 5. He specifically set that team up to get the best out of De Bruyne. Everything was around getting De Bruyne the ball in the right area, and I hope he might do that again because he landed less than last week, but obviously it's dependent on opponent. So I still think he's obviously a very, very good pick, and I think a lot of people will go there. But if you ask me, is he a better captain than Son, Salah, or anyone else this week? No, he's not, and I don't think he ever really is outside a double game week personally.
No, he's the most likely match winner still, isn't he? It's like we said earlier about Foden. Of course, yeah. There isn't a rival to that. When you look at City in this scenario where they've got to beat Villa on the final day, their most likely match winner is still De Bruyne. It's still not enough to captain him.
I asked Gianni earlier if you could have if you're a City, say you're a Pep, and you had another Aguero moment in the 95th minute, but you could have one of the current City players running onto that ball. I can think of one player that I'd want to be on that, and I could think of about 7 that I wouldn't in that City team. I'd only want De Bruyne on the end of that. Mahrez, Jesus, Foden, Sterling. I wouldn't trust any of them to hit the target.
Gundogan's
No, you're
pretty lethal.
absolutely right.
I'd take him.
Yeah, I guess depends how much he's annoyed that he's having to leave at the end of the season. Might just smash it into the stands.
I thought his wife had come out and say, "Oh, that flight to Madrid wasn't about moving; it was about getting married."
Yeah, but he hasn't been playing. He's not. Surely he's not. He's too good. He's
he's played some important games recently. I think it'd be odd to sell him. I think he's very useful to them. Well, I think if I was him, and he can certainly get in most other teams around Europe, then it makes sense. But for City to get rid, I don't think it makes too much sense. But
okay, maybe he does.
Be a big loss.
Yeah,
he does smash it in. Mark, you feeling sentimental right now?
Very, very.
How do you feel about a cheeky little last day Christian Eriksen punt?
Oh, not that sentimental. Yeah, I guess.
Last home game for Brentford.
Brentford have got a good fixture, yeah. I mean, it depends how you back. Do you back Brentford to run riot? I mean, they have to score 3-4 goals, I think, for Everton to haul, in my opinion. Yes, he's going to have his hand in some of their goals, but it's the goal threat for me isn't strong enough. Minutes per chance created is great, but look at his minutes per shot in the box, 180. So yes, he's having shots, but the level of that shot. That's
always been Christian Eriksen, isn't it?
It has. It definitely has. Yeah. So we're reliant on his set piece deliveries, his creativity, and then you're reliant. Really, Brentford probably have to score 2 or 3 goals for Eriksen to be getting the point. So I don't think it's. I think there's far better options of higher ceilings, as in.
You go Tony anyway, don't you? If you're going to pick a Brentford player.
Yeah, I think if you go a Brentford player, Tony makes sense. And it could be him who hits the hat trick on the final day quite easily because he's shown in the tail end of the season with Eriksen in the side that he can be more effective, and that leads defence. We saw with the data, there isn't another defence giving up as many opportunities at the moment.
I will just say in his defence though, 27 minutes per chance created. There's only one player over the last 6 who can better that, and that's De Bruyne. So
it's very strong.
Very strong. The other thing I know
he's a very good pick.
Yeah,
but to captain him's a bit of a stretch. It's just because compared to the other options,
captain him. Christ, I'm not going
well,
that far.
It's final day. We can do what we want. We can mess around.
If you were free hitting, Eriksen would be good. A good punt. If you were playing 5 in midfield, which you probably would be if you're free hitting final day. So I think Eriksen could maybe get into that 5 because I think he's a good punt for final day.
Yeah, he's all right. I mean, the problem is he doesn't tend to get many points, and weirdly, I've just made this connection because he hasn't been somebody who can get many points. But you look at minutes per points, 22.5. Well, that's in line with quite a few of the goalkeepers that we mentioned earlier in the season. It just shows how low down the goalkeepers really is.
And Mbomo's beating that 20.2.
20.2. God, our boy, 1 goal, 1 assist in 6. Wow.
Same number of starts, better minutes per point.
Yeah.
Than Eriksen. So
maybe
that answers the question, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. No, he's not the one to get, but I'm just saying.
Mark says getting Mbomo, everyone on it.
Been there, done that. That worked as well, didn't it?
Did you have him for his penalty?
I had him for his non-points, didn't I? Basically, I had him at the start of the season where he showed those glimpses of looking like he was going to be a great pick. I held on too long. And then he's never really had like so many. He's not had that spell that Tony's had, where Tony really did have a strong second half of the season. Bomo has shown promise still, and I think he could maybe kick on next season, but he's not going to get a look.
One of my highlights of the season was the penalty he scored. I was in a bar in London watching it.
You had him, did you?
I had him, yeah. I was.
Oh, what a shocker. Yeah.
The problem with him is he takes away from that. It's not a position that you want to use that kind of priced player in, is it? You want to use the forwards for that, like the Tony. If you have the Mbama, he looks like a decent option, but then you're taking out Saka, Son, Salah, like other options that just are better. So it's very tricky.
I think that's why Gameweek is so nice, because the 5 million you can just have as a 5th midfielder, and 4.5. I mean, there was Souček last season, wasn't there? You can kind of get away with that and just bring him in when you need him to. But once you start going up to the 5.5-6 mark, that's when you really need to be starting those players. Otherwise, there's no point in really having them. So, Mbama was 5.5 when he started. It kind of put him in a difficult bracket, I guess.
A few mentions of Vita in the chat. Obviously got the 2 goals at Everton, Goodison Park, and he is now getting starts, and they're changing the system to accommodate him. He could play against Leeds on the final day, so he could be a great shout again in the free hit. I think getting a Brentford mid or Tony in the free hit is probably a way to go.
I'm definitely getting a Brentford player this week.
Are you? You're getting one in?
Yeah.
With your transfers?
Yeah.
Are you? Okay.
I'll talk a bit about
But
it.
Visser's 5.7, which is quite pricey still, isn't it? It's still in the same range as Ericsson. Well, it is, exactly. And then Bomo. But perhaps Visser is the one
Yep,
out of those three.
I like it.
Not in our chart, though, is he? Not in the...
He is. He's 28th on the chart.
Oh, there he is, yeah. Okay.
He's not going to create you any chances. 325 minutes per chance is literally unbelievably bad. But a shot every 27.1 minutes is one of the, in the top 10. Minutes per shot in the box of 40.6. He's in some good company with that. Saka.
He's just behind the non-free hitters hero of the game week, Mr. Jeffrey Schlupp.
Oh, Mr. Jeffrey Schlupp.
With that one goal to ruin the double Villa clean sheet.
Yeah. Oh, and I have such good memories of Jeffrey Schlupp. He won me a mini league many years ago when he got an assist in like the 90th minute when he played for Leicester. That was good times. Forwards. This will be quick.
This won't take long, will it?
Yeah. This will be quick. Forwards over the season. The best performing striker from an underlying stats perspective is Mr. Gabriel Jesus, 140.6.
Crazy.
8 goals, 8 assists. It's not an awful return for him. He had to spell on the right wing. He did all right for people who free hitted, not like us, Mark, who ignored him completely. But if you had him against Watford when he got 4 goals and an assist or something ridiculous, you've done well out of that.
20 starts is surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, 20 starts out of 38 is a lot. I mean, he just ousted Mahrez for a bit, didn't he? And was playing quite a lot at the start of the season.
He's played
He's
right
warranted
wing.
it.
Yeah.
He's played right wing most of the season. He only really played centre forward in the back end, really, didn't he? They established quite early on that he would play on the right wing, and it worked pretty well. Yeah,
See,
arguably it's a better position these days, anyway.
Cristiano Ronaldo has done quite well.
Yeah, he's done all right, hasn't he?
Mr. O.
We'll go back to your video, Mark, where you were unsure about his role in the team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 18 goals, 3 returns,
It's
3 assists.
I mean, it's he cost 12.5 when he joined. It was a lot of money. I think he's done all right, but he's never. I mean, from a football perspective, where would United be without him in the side?
Yeah,
18 goals is incredible, but fantasy wise, he's not really done it. I don't think.
No,
He's served his purpose as. He served his purpose as you bring him in for targeted games or double game weeks, and he's done okay. But at that price, 12 million, like I say, you're not going to captain him.
He's been
not good enough.
He's been like a kind of period player, isn't he? You hold him for a block, he does well in that, and then you ship, and he doesn't. And if you got him in the right blocks, then you've probably got good memories of him.
But he's not made us rethink where our heavy hitters are.
No.
Son and Salah have been dominant. He hasn't made us rethink that. Which when Lukaku and Ronaldo came in, that's what I was. Well,
look at Lukaku down there, 21st on the season. I mean, 206.7. I mean, we all thought he was going to be banging them in. 8 goals, 2 assists this season. 15 starts. That's just a killer, isn't it? I mean,
but interesting. Like his minutes per point is 17.5. Kane's on 17.3. So his minutes per point isn't that bad, but he just hasn't been able to show form to establish himself in that team, has he?
I think he could go. I mean, let's be honest. If he's going to start against Watford, could he not be that player?
I like him. I like him against Watford. I guess it just depends on Havertz.
I can't see him not bullying that team. If they've got Cathcart at centre back, I mean, I just can't see.
Would
how
you
that's
take
not a
the risk though
mismatch.
that he started if Havertz was fit? That's the.
I think we'd have to get some
free hit. I
information.
absolutely would.
Really.
In a free hit, I'd go Lukaku. I think. If I was chasing, he's a viable option in a free hit. I think it's a pure, if you're using one of your 2 or 3 transfers, I don't know.
You're going to have Son. You're going to have Son, Kane, and Vardy though. So how do you fit Lukaku into that as well on a free hit?
Well, if you want to be different, that's basically it, isn't it? You go Lukaku, I think. But also, I mean, when he came, we wondered who would take penalties between Lukaku and Jorginho. And although it's been quickly established it's Jorginho, he actually missed one pretty recently again. Now, I think Lukaku, I've got a sneaky suspicion if he does play and they get a penalty, I think he might even take it in that game. Just almost a confidence thing, get his goals up. Jorginho missed, why not? So I think that's an added factor to put in there. I think we're very much going to need some news, though, to suggest that Havertz is out. I think it was hamstring, was it? So I don't know if he will play. I think Lukaku probably will. As it stands right now, it looks like Lukaku's favourite to play that game. I really do like that.
In terms of starts, you look at that, he's got 8 goals in 15 starts. It's a 1 in 2. It's not
it's
absolutely disastrous.
Home to Watford.
And,
you could pick Kovacic in that game and be hopeful that you might get something. I think.
Pick the DMs. That's what I do. Works out quite well.
Yeah, Kante in for his brace.
just a couple of players I want to mention here as well. I mean, Watkins, 11 goals isn't bad. Again, isn't a bad return for him.
Not bad,
But he's not really done it, has he? I mean, he got, 18 goals last season? Something like that? 17, 18? He had an amazing season last season. I guess Danny Ings came in and managerial shifts and stuff. But with all the creativity he's got, I thought he would kick on.
I mean, basically, if you look at this, Watkins and Tony, you'd hope that they would have us rethink the structure of our teams and go, 3 up front. But they haven't really done enough to do that. It's been leaning towards 1 up front and moving that around Kane, Ronaldo. Now you'd move to Vardy, maybe. You've never really had any confidence in going 2 up front, let alone 3, for most of this season, because we haven't been able to find 2 consistent forwards. I mean, Bamford I would throw in there with Watkins and Tony as well. As if he would have been fit, you've got to think that he might have been a factor. And ideally, that's what we want. We're not going to go Haaland because there are 3 or 4 forwards around the 7-5 mark that you can bank. You can bank to get 15 goals.
Yeah, and I mean Calvert-Lewin as well is not on this list. We've missed him. I missed that kind of 7-5, 7-ish forward.
Yeah. Well, Antonio went off a cliff as well, didn't he?
Well, I was about to say the Antonio thing's just really, really strange. Really, in the past, whenever he's on the pitch, he is literally shit points, and he did it at the beginning of the season, and now. The stats are still decent and he still looks good in most games. I mean, there's been times where he's looked absolutely knackered because of Europe, fair enough. But I still think, look at the data, it's good across the season. He's still a good price. I just don't really understand how he hasn't performed off. He's definitely dropped off.
He's
and
not in the
Bowen's,
top 10 for minutes per shot or minutes per shot in the box.
No.
You can see that there, right? So.
But I'm talking about compared to previous seasons more than just from first and second half. Antonio has always looked like, I mean, that's why we all had him at the beginning of the season. He could have done more, I think. Definitely, I don't think anyone's disputing that.
I would say after about everything this season that's happened, all the crazy things that have happened. If someone from the future had come back to us in game week 5 and said Antonio's going to get 9 goals all season, we'd have gone. Well, he's already got 6.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
That's impossible in this attacking West Ham team. Yeah,
you'd lock him up in the lunatic ward, and but yeah, I think that's been. The shock of FPL for me is just how poorly he's performed.
I mean, if they told us he'd play that many games in the season, 33, I'd have fallen over. Yeah,
33 starts. I know.
I mean, you've got to look at Tony though. You've got to look at Tony. 12 goals, 5 assists in 31 starts. That's a successful first season in the Premier League. And you've got to think that he will. Brentford will add to their creativity. They will hold on to him and they will get him more service. You've got to think, okay, it'll probably be what?
Right?
Yeah, he'll probably be 6, 5, 7 next season. Probably be 7.
I think,
but you've got to think he'll get 15 goals next season.
The problem with Tony was, I think, the emphasis everyone had on him at the start, because everyone had him in their teams. They thought he was going to be the main man with pens, and his role was different, wasn't it? He dropped a lot deeper. He was bringing other players into play.
He did.
That's kind of. I think they've gone more recently with him playing more in the box and where you'd like to see him. And I think next season he gets more goals. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, Luke.
I don't know if they will increase it. I think because they need to drop strikers across the board, you almost match that up with the level of performance and think maybe he might be around the same again. I think that would be fair. But
6-5 again. It depends what Mitrovic. I mean, if Mitrovic comes in at 7,
should be 6. No, they can't put Mitrovic at 7.
Mitrovic won't be 6. Mitrovic will be 6-5.
Mitrovic 6-5. Yeah. The best striker from the Championship every season's been 6-5, I think. So I think that's probably. And I think
Tony's probably about the same.
So Keenan Davis will be 6'5". Yeah.
Keenan Davis.
You're laughing. You're laughing.
He's that 4.5 hero that so many people have for Villa last season.
And he could be again next season if we do come up and they price him at 4.5. Yeah.
Oh, Mark, I hope you guys come up. BlackBox. Imagine the Brighton Forest going into that game. It'd be so exciting.
Well, Brennan Johnson, if he comes up and he's 6 million and he's a mid, that's going to be the easiest pick in the world, I think.
Really?
Easiest,
and your best mate, Jed.
Yeah.
Well,
not if he's eating nuggets at 1:15 in the morning.
Yeah, that's a good point. You've got an insight into his late night behaviour, and it's not.
No, he's a brilliant player.
Forwards over the last 6. Look at that. Number 1, Jamie Vardy, 2 starts, 4 goals, 97.5. He's the joker in the pack. We were going to name this podcast after him, weren't we? And then go for a party pan, or I think we had late to the party.
I thought that one was better, but people like Last Dish as well.
Yeah, well, I think it was me that overruled that, but
I was going to say I was with you.
Yeah, I think Luke was.
Put your foot down.
Well.
Yeah, you're the boss.
I'm hosted. It's my show.
No, that's
tonight. And then I mean, Gelhardt, he was on the season data as well, and he's on the last 6, 110.1. When I've seen him play, he's been, really good for Leeds. I'm surprised he hasn't played more for them.
What that screams to me is if Bamford was fit, like Mark said, then he would have done well as well. I think that position has been shown last season that Bamford did it in that, and the way they maybe it's different now that they're not under Bielsa, granted, but it screams that position in the team is quite useful. I mean, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but Bamford there with penalties. Yeah, I think we were robbed.
This is why I don't want Leeds down. I just, I want to have another go with Bamford. I really do. I think he showed such promise in his first season. I like him as a player, as an intelligent player. Plays FPL as well. I don't want him going down. And hopefully, if they do go down, maybe someone will offer him a lifeline and bring him back to the Premier League. Whether that be like a Fulham
Brighton.
might look at him.
He's exactly what we need.
You could do a lot worse than Bamford.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Completely agree.
You don't need him anymore. Welbeck's Pele now.
That's true. He always has been, to be fair, but he's probably
I go here, then I score.
I've always liked Danny Welbeck. I think he's a good player. It's just a shame of all the injuries he's had. Just some other players on this list to mention. Tony's up here, so his minutes per expected goal from non-pen of 150. Just mentioning that because that is way up on his season expected goal involvement non-penalty, which is 203.2. So if you're looking at, I mentioned that I sense there's a bit of a kind of a system change to get him more involved. I think that's borne out with some of the chances that he's had. He's not just relying on the penalties like Luke said, which he's had a lot of this season. I think his open play threat is increased. Another player who's not on this list is Wilson, Callum Wilson. He was awesome against Arsenal. He broke it, a tooth fell out. He nearly scored from the halfway line. He was just absolutely incredible.
He scored a goal which he didn't score.
He had it all. He just had everything in that game. And going against Burnley, I know they're away. They're not as good away from home, but Burnley are playing tomorrow. They haven't got a huge squad. Bit of extra tiredness in there. I wonder if Wilson could be an interesting last day punt as well for some people.
Yeah, it could be. I think they won heavily at Turf Moor last season. I think Sam Maxman won the game on his own. Didn't he come on and turn the game completely? I think I seem to remember that. Yeah, so I do think Newcastle could win that game, even though Burnley need a result. I do think Newcastle, in the form they're in at the moment.
Callum Wilson is a Luke punt.
I've never owned Callum Wilson.
What?
Once.
What, in your FPL career, you've never owned Callum Wilson?
And sometimes that's been good. But mostly, there's been
sometimes
periods. Sometimes maybe shit, yes. Usually, though, he gets injured, doesn't he? So it's kind of like I console myself by saying, "Oh, I've saved some transfers. Then I've not bought him in. I've not been affected, and then I had to make another transfer." But generally, when he plays, he is another one who, like Antonio, I'm not going to say it, points come out of somewhere. So I feel like he is definitely an option.
He'll be on pens as well. Go to that. I like him. I think given that it's such a
probably strengthen though, right?
What Newcastle?
Think?
Yeah. They can't rely on him to stay fit for a start.
Nah, you can't rely on him. But you're looking at Gameweek 38 with a fit Wilson, with the players that Newcastle got at the moment. I think they could score a couple. Are
you suggesting, Luke, that Chris Wood is not Callum Wilson's backup long term? I'll take that as a no.
Champions League football with Chris Wood up top. It would be.
Poor old Chris. He gets a right kicking. He gets a kicking from the FBL community, Chris Wood. He's a figure of fun, isn't he?
Well, he should score a bloody goal, shouldn't he?
Wouldn't say it to his face. Absolutely. No.
I think that goes for a lot of things that we say on this podcast. The different players. So just to summarise, just looking at the player data over the season, we've covered each of the positions now. Salah, Jota, Mane are the top three over the season. I can't expect to see that changing. Sterling's in fourth, 128.6. He's had a mixed season, 23 starts, 13 goals, 6 assists. It's not been a bad season by any stretch, but he's been a frustrating one. Like on our free hits, Mark. No, not to keep bringing that up, but that's just kind of what Sterling seems to do at the moment. Looking at the player data over the last 6, number 1 is Vardy. So if you have got your free hit left in 38, I think Vardy has got all the tools to, he's going to be a differential. People are going to be trying to get in Son and Kane and Spurs players and Chelsea players and all that. If you can just get Vardy in quite easily on that free hit, then, because he's a hard player to get to, right? If he's 10 million and you're trying to get on players. So he's the perfect free hit player for me.
Most people don't have the structure they can move to Vardy with free transfers without major surgery, so he's a great free hit. But just going back to Sterling on the free hit, do you think Sterling is now resigned to being just a free hit signing for FPL Manager? Because I don't see him ever breaking into our regular lineup.
Not with Foden and Grealish there.
So he's become like Mahrez. He's become that player you take a punt on with a free hit.
I think he could go in the summer again. I think he's another one that
he could do. I think the issue with Sterling for me is he's played quite a few games as the centre forward, and that doesn't really suit him. I think when he plays on that right wing, as we saw against Newcastle, for example, Cancelo, that has undoubtedly been his best position over the years. Even at Liverpool, everything, even his best City seasons at Man City, that's been his best spot. And unfortunately for him, obviously Mahrez is there. You can play Jesus out there. So his versatility kills him a little bit because he ends up putting centre forward in some games left. When we got Haaland there, will he play centre forward? I can't see that happening very often.
But
so maybe he does become a better option.
Didn't he have his best season in terms of output from the left flank? I mean, that's now
no, that was Sane. That was Sane left wing. And
okay,
Sterling right wing.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, because the far post goals were all on the right wing. That's right.
Yeah,
he's not. He's just not party to that anymore.
It's funny because I think of Sterling as a left winger. That's just how I picture him. We played him on the right, didn't we, for England? And I remember thinking, "Oh, are we doing that?" And then that worked. So
he can play anywhere. He can perform in any of those positions. But I think playing the 9 for City is probably arguably the worst position. Jesus and stuff. I know he got the 4, but that was actually from right wing. And they often are almost the decoy, aren't they? Like many of the forwards this season have been, and Antonio did, and many others that I could go through that have. It's not quite worked out. You want to be that person who's on the wing cutting in. And with Sterling, he drifts anyway. He doesn't stay on the right wing. He gets the freedom to then move in. Whereas when you're in the centre forward position, I feel like you have to stay there and then move out of it, and it doesn't really work. Haaland, I mean, this is why it's going to be so fascinating when Haaland signs, how Pep's going to sort of change to use him, because it's a bit of a puzzle. They haven't been playing that way where, as we saw from the stats last week, he doesn't really offer much of anything else. So how are they going to utilise him? It's going to be very interesting.
Yep. I think that's about it. I did put together a little cheat sheet. I normally only do it for double game weeks, but I thought, why not? It's the final week. So again, this is looking at a combination of expected goal involvement data and the fixtures to formulate a kind of total score of who the stats suggest has got a good chance of getting attacking returns. Vardy's at the top, no surprise. Havertz is in second if he starts. Then you've got Salah. Mateta always does really well on this. I was tempted to leave him out, but I thought, nah, he's all right. If he starts, he's right up there. And that's against United. And then you've got Ivan Toney in 5th. My best mate, Danny Welbeck, in 6th. Harvey Barnes in 7th. Son, Jesus and Diaz rounding up the top 10. So no Kane in that, for example. No Maddison. Lukaku's down in 18th. But I think that top 10, there's enough. There's a few people in there who you could reasonably consider. That not many people are going to have. Toney, Barnes, Diaz. These are all guys that I would consider on a free hit if I was going to.
Yeah, there's names there that are your free hit ingredients, right? If you're chasing it, it's like you said, it's Vardy, it's Toney, it's probably Barnes, and you take a chance on Diaz. You probably we've discussed Alonso as well as a player with a high ceiling. Right? So I think strangely, if you save the free hit to 38, you're in a good spot. There's a whole menu, a smorgasbord of options that you can go for. I think.
Might get some team news as well, right? Which could be very useful. Might get some early team news with them all kicking off at the same time. I feel like there might be a few more leaks than usual. You obviously have to avoid the terrible ones. What about Pulisic? He's not on here, but I just want to throw him out while we can.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's Ziyech and Pulisic could be worth a risk, but what do they get, an hour?
I just wouldn't trust it.
Yeah,
there's too many good players.
Werner's probably out, right?
Yep. I captained Pulisic last season, Gameweek 38, and got hurt by that.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't last season before. Yeah, Ireland as well. It was against Wolves.
I captained him in that game, and De Bruyne had destroyed me. But yeah, I think he got an assist on the final.
I free hitted that week 2 seasons ago. I was just outside the top 10k, and I free hitted, saved my chip all that season, and I ended up about 16k. And that is the worry with using that free hit chip on Game Week 38. You say there's good potential, absolutely. But like we said earlier, there's 2 potential squads you could put out for 38, which would both look good. A lot of people are going to have one of those squads. If you free hit that squad into the other squad, You run the
Yeah.
risk of that first squad absolutely blowing. Like Salah, for example, you're probably not going to have Salah on a free hit, but if he starts and gets a hat trick, you're.
I think you might have him on a free hit if he starts. I think why wouldn't you?
Well, you don't know if he starts. Would you have him on a free hit if Salah was a doubt? But you wouldn't. You probably wouldn't.
Liverpool
sell him.
was one of the few teams we do often get early lineup news. If Salah starts, he's the best pick in the game.
But I'm not saying if he starts. I'm saying if you don't know. If he's a doubt, if Klopp says, well, he might start, he might be all right.
Well, yeah, no, you wouldn't. But
you're not going to have.
I think
him,
if the information comes out to say he starts and he's home to Wolves.
Well, yeah, of course you then have him, but.
Well, I don't think everyone's thinking, of course. I think people would still maybe not go with him at the moment. So I think it's maybe worth thinking about.
On a free hit, if Salah starts against Wolves, you wouldn't.
If you knew he was starting, you'd probably go with him.
Yeah, surely.
I think the free hit in 38 is useful if you're chasing. If you're consolidating, I don't know if I'd even play it. But like you say, because the capacity for making errors, I mean, I play it and be conservative with it rather than.
That's what I wish I'd done, because I think I changed all 11. And
you're drawn to that.
You are, because I think I had Aubameyang and he had Watford at home, and I was worried about the FA Cup final that they had. So I was like, oh, he might not play 60 minutes. I took him out. I think he got 2 goals and assists, something like that. It was little decisions like that which ended up costing me. So yeah, I would be careful if you've still got that chip left. But yeah, Vardy's an obvious
depending
one.
on where you are. If you're 100k like me, you push, won't you? Yeah.
Yep. Predictions. This is we're going to obviously do the final standings next week, but this is where we're at the moment. In terms of correct outcomes, 349 games predicted for Mark and I. Luke's on 52 now. Luke's got the worst percentage of predicted outcomes, so listen to him. 40%, 40.4%. Mark at 50.1, myself at 52.7. There's 9 in it. Mark,
we're over the 50%, both of us.
We're both over the 50% mark.
So I'm better than last season now.
Yep.
So I was 49.5 last season. I ended the season on.
Let's not blow that, because that looks quite good for us in that position.
9 in it, so I can't possibly beat you on the final day. But
no.
But yeah, I think I'm quite happy with my performance on this season. I've kind of kept the correct score ratio up fairly high, and 50% is a reasonable rate. And you've had a bit better, a bit better, right?
I'm over the moon. 50%. That was our target start of the season. We've done it.
Yeah. And Luke as a control shows that we're 10%.
Exactly. Yeah, Luke's
than
our
anybody
control
else. Luke is
meat shield to the rescue. Here I come.
I'm going with
Get a
that.
costume.
Going with that.
If anyone cares about clean sheets,
everywhere.
Yeah. If anyone terms about clean sheets, I'm winning that just 44.2% compared to Mark's 43.8. Luke with 36.8. So only 2 in it. Only 2 in it, Mark. So that you could.
Yeah. I'll take some comfort.
Look how aggressive Mark gets when he's got someone he's finally beaten. Look at him.
I know.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
In this little meta game that we've invented as part of the.
You take your little victory, Mark. I'll take 78k.
Yeah.
Come on, Mark.
Yeah, but let's not mention our histories though. Let's move on quickly.
Yeah, but you don't play for history, do you? So that's fine.
Oh yeah, see, I've got that get out clause. Love it.
all that variance. Game week fixtures. Game week 38. We've all done predictions of these.
We should probably race through these.
Yeah, let's go for these. We're at 2 hours already. We've all gone for an Arsenal win. We've all gone for 2-1. Luke and I have gone for a Brentford win, 2-1. Mark's gone for a draw, which isn't surprising because you love giving Leeds points. You always do.
Stay up.
I know. You always give them points.
I forlornly hope that if I predict they get points, they will get points.
Wouldn't be enough, would it? A draw? I think they need to win, surely, to have any chance.
I couldn't make them lose.
No, that's nice. Brighton, you've gone for Brighton win, Mark. My dad will be happy. Luke and I have both gone for draws. I don't know what my dad's prediction is for that. We'll have to find out. Burnley, Newcastle. Look at that. We've all gone for the same result.
All 2-1.
All gone
Look
for
at this
2-1
one as well.
Yeah, Chelsea Watford
4-5-0, 5-0.
God, so we're expecting a minimum of 4 goals in that.
And look at the next one.
I know, Palace United. We've all gone for a Palace win. I've gone for 3-2. Mark's gone for 2-0. Luke, the United fan, has gone for 2-1. Is Ten Hag in charge of this game, or is he like? I saw something about he was like going to be there and with the coaching staff or something weird.
What, you're expecting a bounce just for him being in the ground?
Well,
I think so.
No, what do I? I think if anything, he might be getting the plane back after he watches this after this match. Going back to Ajax, screw this.
Yeah.
Leicester, we've all gone hard for a Leicester win. We've all gone for pretty much the same results here. It looks on paper quite an easy week to predict, but I doubt it will be. There'll definitely be some surprises along the way. 4-1, I've gone for 3-1 and 3-1. You two have gone for actually quite a few same scores. Liverpool Wolves, we've all gone for a comfortable home win for Liverpool. I've gone for 3-0, Mark 3-0, Luke 4-0. City Villa, look at this. Mark 2-0, Luke 2-1. The romantic in me.
2-2.
I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I think Villa can frustrate them. I think Villa can frustrate them, and I think
get 2 goals.
I think they can get 2 goals against them. If it's that centre back partnership again, which Luke seems to think it's going to be, of Fernandinho and Laporte, they will get them. And
no, I think Ake will play if he's fit.
You think? Well, he's not that good anyway. So I still.
Oh, that's harsh.
You love Ake. You always put him in your side. He's
well, that's because the alternative is Zinchenko, and I think he proved last week why
he's a mid-table defender. Okay, which isn't bad. You think he's a Champions League playing centre back?
No, but I think he gets in another 12, 13 other Premier League teams.
That's what mid-table.
Well, I'd say
the slander. He's been pretty good for quite a while now. I think he's a good bit. He's an upgrade on Fernandinho.
He is an upgrade.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I'd like to see Fernandinho play, but we'll see. I honestly wasn't that impressed with City against West Ham. Obviously, I think West Ham played really well, and I think Villa have got the players that can cause. They're not just going to be a team that just sits back and absorbs. They've got players that can hit them in the areas that Man City struggle with. So we'll see. Final game then, Norwich Spurs. We've all gone for loads of goals for Spurs. You've been very generous here, Luke. You've given 2 goals for Norwich, 4-2.
Yeah, why not? Pookie to become is he top 3 forwards for the season already? Make the final stretch. I did it for Flapjack really. I thought I'd throw those in there.
Yeah, he hasn't got more points. At a point he had more points than Ronaldo, didn't he?
I think he's right up there certainly.
He can't be. He can't really. Yeah.
I'm gonna go now and find out.
Don't have to check. Keep talking, Az. Keep talking. We'll check.
Yeah, good. Captain Matrix. Again, it's always, look at this. It's so pathetic. There's just one left. One Captain Matrix.
Oh, I said to you didn't need to do this because.
No, I know, but I felt sentimental towards it. I missed it.
I think we can move straight to the cats and cans conversation, though, can't we?
Well, just quickly. I mean, the primary candidates. I think it's useful to see. It's going to be between Salah and Son. I think they're the 2 main ones. See my dog barking. He agrees. Differential options.
You're being burgled, Az, probably.
Yes, I'll be fine. Don't worry. It's probably Magnus again coming in through the door.
He's behind you.
He's behind me. Oh, crap. Differential options. I mean, you might have people going for the Leicester boys. I put Maddison in there. Harvey Barnes. You might be going for the Chelsea boys, James, or Kane. I think Kane's a differential pick as well because the majority of people are going to be on Son with the Golden Boot. Looking at the data, these are the candidates over the season, just like it is every week. We're going to have, hopefully next season, which have Salah at the top of everything because that's just really boring. But if you look at the last 6 game weeks, you've got Vardy up there presenting that really nice kind of alternative choice. Looking at goals over the last 6, it's Son with the most, with 7. Luke, is it Son for you? Is there any chance you might consider captaining someone else?
Well, I don't even have him at the moment, so there's certainly a chance depending on team news. I've got Salah in my team and De Bruyne, so I would have to sell one of those for Son. So it could come out Salah's fit, and then I'm sat with De Bruyne home to Villa, and I think Son's a better pick, so I probably would have to do that. But part of me just wants to go crazy because it's the final week. I think we'll just get in, Barnes and stick him as a captain, or get Lukaku in and put him as captain. Honestly, I'm open to anything
Alonso.
at this point.
You've got a chance, Mark.
I really like him. Pulisic, I think, could I get him in? Literally, I think you can do anything in Game Week 38. Who cares at the end of the day?
Spoken like someone on the beach at
I think
78k, nice and safe.
With my Fabio head on, if I have such a thing, I'm like Wurzel Gomez. I've got a number of heads I can put on. With a head that was talking as Fabio would talk, I think Son is the sensible pick. We got the Golden Boot conversation, which we haven't had yet. Son's still in touch. Under normal circumstances, I'd probably go Kane, as in he will get the 90, where Son may go off with 15, 20 minutes to go. But will he, if he's going for the Golden Boot, and with Conte trying to make up for that early sub, against, who was it? Against Burnley? Was it against Burnley? No, it was against, who was it? Completely, my mind slipped.
Oh, against Arsenal.
Arsenal.
Yeah, after the sending
he
off.
took him off early. Yeah, I think he will get most of the game at Norwich. And
Well,
in that
unless he's
case,
visibly tired, what are you saving him for? You keep him on, don't you? So
he's yeah, exactly. So I think he'll get most of the 90, if not the 90. And in that case, with the Golden Boot in the conversation, Son is the best option. So it's, you know, do you need to look beyond Son? Can you get differentials in with your free transfers? Do you need to use the captaincy for the differential? I think I'm going to stick with Son.
Yep. No chance.
Model's got Kane and Son top. You'll be surprised to hear as Kane just about.
Well, that's what I mean.
Kane ahead of Son, really? Yeah. I mean,
it's by 0.1, but
there's questions about
it's X-Mins, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's questions about penalties and whether Kane gives Son a penalty.
Kane takes them.
I personally don't think Kane gives Son a penalty, no matter what the score is. That's my prediction. I just don't think that would even enter into his head. I'm the penalty taker at Spurs. I haven't missed one. I'm scoring it.
What about Mane?
It's just the minutes, isn't it, the Champions League and how the City game's going. You know, if City is touch and go, Mane will be on the pitch most of the game and at full tilt. But that's a variable there, isn't it? So.
Champions League 6 days away. Do you really think he takes people off, or is it just to protect them from getting injured?
Well, he's rested
6 days after
team
that game, I
for a
believe.
reason. Yeah, but why did he rest so many?
Because they needed a rest. Well, they needed a rest, and it was games close together.
Robertson had already had a rest. Yeah, but Robertson had already had a rest, and he played
we've talked
again. So
we've talked about this before, though. It's not just about rest because they played. If Robertson might have been knackered for a long time, and one rest isn't good enough because the games are so close together.
I
don't know why he's done it.
Not seeing the touch.
But we all think he's going to play. No, exactly. We all think he's going to play their best team, and the Champions League is 6 days later. So for me, the only reason to take people off would be to stop them getting injured for the Champions League final. I completely understand that.
I mean, he will take him off because he's got the options to. He's got Firmino and Jota there. There's no reason to leave Mane on for 90 minutes.
Mane, Diaz, Salah are all risks to come off with 10-15 to go, but they might do a significant
The question is, does it matter? Because you only need 75 minutes to do it. Yeah. I mean,
I personally think there's better options for final day.
I've got Trent and Robertson in my team. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to not have Salah, to be honest. You know, I've got Son there. I've got Kane. I've got other players that I can rely on. So, yeah, for me, I don't think I'd be going near any of them. But you know the damage any of them could do. So, yeah, it's not that simple. Opponents. Norwich are the worst team over the season. I think we all know that. Worst minutes per chance, worst minutes per big chance, worst minutes per expected goal conceded, and worst minutes per expected goal conceded non-penalty. Over the last 6, it's actually Watford that take that mantle, which is what makes the Chelsea boys so appealing. They've got the worst minutes per big chance conceded, the worst minutes per expected goal conceded, and the worst minutes per expected goal conceded. So this is where your Mount, Havertz, Lukaku, James, Alonso, any of these players, if you're feeling brave enough.
I think you've got to get a ticket in that raffle.
Yeah.
At least one. So.
Yep. Right. We've done 2 hours 11, but we're at the final stretch. Let's go. This is my team on the screen. I've got Dubravka in goal. I've got Trent, Robertson, Cancelo, Cash away at Man City, which doesn't look too great. Son, captain, Maddison, Saka, Bruno G, my boy, Kane and Richarlison. So, and on my bench, I've got Pickford, Ings, Roberts and Gordon. My 2 weaknesses I want to address with a -4, which is Cash and Richarlison, because I don't think Everton are going to do much against Arsenal. And I can do Ivan Toney in, who's my Brentford player I mentioned earlier, and then I can do Cash up to Reece James. So that gives me what I think is a pretty powerful squad going into Gameweek 38.
You're going to end with 3 strikers playing?
No, because I'll do Ings to Toney, bench Richarlison.
Bench Richarlison?
Yeah, because I'll play Bruno over Richarlison, I think. It's probably close between them, but I think Newcastle can get a couple against Burnley. Maybe I can't bench Bruno G on the final day, can I? Not when I'm watching it with you two at the pub. He's got to play. So yeah, -4. I mean, I don't often take a hit on the final day because obviously you don't have the weeks ahead to make those points back if it fails. It's got to come through for you on that day. But I think James and Toney, both at home with good fixtures, is worth the risk. So that's what I'll be doing.
Yep. Okay.
Mark, your team on the screen. Do you want to read through it, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah. So I'll start Pope in goal. Trent, Shah, Cancelo. No idea if Shah's going to be available because it's a concussion issue. I'm not sure what the number of days of clearance has to be now on that. It will be 6, I believe, the difference between when he was off subbed and when he plays on Sunday. The Shah could be a doubt. Well, he's a doubt. I hope he plays. But Son, Saka, Gordon and Zaha in midfield, Kane, Richarlison and some fella called Veghorst who still hasn't put those shelves up that I've asked him to do, but I want to do that. So yeah, Coutinho, Dina, Saiz, Pickford on the bench. I don't really want to bring Coutinho and Dina into the equation. I think I'm going to take a -4, and it will be Coutinho to Maddison or Barnes, and probably then Dina to Alonso, which means that I then have to decide who I don't start. I really want to start Shah and hope he plays, and then that gives me the option of not going with Gordon or Veghorst. But if Shah doesn't turn up, one of Gordon or Veghorst will have to play, and then I've got a decision to make.
It looks a bit grim, your team.
Yeah, I said that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to. Well, I don't know. Once I've got Barnes or Maddison in there, and once I've got Alonso at the back, it doesn't. I don't think. I think it's all right there. And if Shah plays, then that's okay. I think it's all right. But if I've got to play one of Gordon or Veghorst, then there's a clear weakness, isn't it? Yeah. I think Richarlison at Arsenal's all right. You know, I mean, defensively, Arsenal are. I think we'll let one in again, and Richarlison's the most likely. So
it's that away form though. That Everton away form is unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's definitely a thing. And if they're safe,
Arsenal,
if they beat Palace tomorrow,
yeah,
and they're safe, then
yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. That's a big if, isn't it?
It is a big if.
So
That needs a game.
yeah, it's not great, but you know, I've got Son in place already, and I've got Kane, right? So I could do a lot of damage with Kane. So you know, not many will have Son and Kane, I don't believe, without, because they probably just come off the free hit and they won't have both.
Yeah.
If even one of them. So I think it's all right as long as Shah plays. If Shah doesn't play, I've got problems. I don't think I'm going to take a -8. So.
Surely a -8 on the farm day is too much.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Luke, 5 at the back. Do you want to run through your team?
Yeah. Do I need to say it out loud as well?
Please.
Pod? I've got a terrible goalkeeper, that's for sure. I've either got Forster or Foster, and Forster got dropped last week, so that means I've got
evolutionary
the
line
Watford keeper.
on Pokemon. Like if you're Forster's,
Yeah.
Foster's evolved into Forster, but they're both rubbish.
Yeah, getting worse as they go along. It's like Pidgey. Yeah, so it looks like I'm going to have Foster away to Chelsea. So Jesus, I don't know what's going to happen there. But aside from that, it looks okay, right? James, Alonso, I have to hope they play. I'm not totally convinced they do, but I hope they do. Robertson, Trent, I think they do. Cancelo, be fairly sure he would. It's the Salah, Saka, De Bruyne, Foden in midfield. I think they probably all play. It's obviously Salah I'll be guided by. If he's out, then the obvious move for me is just to bring in Son for him, like I've said, or maybe just go for a punt with a Hail Mary. And like Mark, I've got Richarlison up front against Arsenal. I don't particularly like it, but is it worth a hit to take him out? If I was to drop Salah down to, say, Barnes or someone, then I could bring Lukaku in for Richarlison for a hit. Now, whether that's going to be worth it depends on if Lukaku does go nuclear or not, really, doesn't it? So that's something I may do just to throw it out there. My bench is Mateta, Geldhart and Ramsey, so nothing to write home about. But I think if Mateta plays
in the
Man United, okay. I'm not sure, but let me just check.
You haven't really got much freedom with your transfer, have you?
I've got 0.5. No. I think if Salah's confirmed fit, then De Bruyne to Son, but it has the potential to backfire that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
That's a luxury. I mean, it's not, but it feels like a luxury move because De Bruyne is obviously so good. But I tell you what, I was in a right state going into last game week, trying to work out what I was going to do about Son, because I can't go into 38 without Son. It'll be absolutely dreadful. And the Salah injury helped me out because it made that transfer so simple. Because in your position, Luke, I don't know what I do if Salah's kind of fit. I don't know what I do. I don't know whether I'd sell him. I don't know whether I'd sell De Bruyne. It's such a tricky one to know what to do, because when with no Spurs ahead of Norwich, like I hate it when.
Well, that's it. I feel like Son or Kane is the best pick, and I can't easily get to Kane, so it's Son in for one of them, isn't it?
I think it has to be. Yeah, interesting.
But maybe it's Pulisic and Lukaku. I can't get both because I've got Alonso and James, so maybe it would be a Leicester, Barnes, and then get in Lukaku. That's the alternative.
You need your front three trio back. Your Barnes, your Maddison, your Vardy. You're going to miss them.
Yeah, well, I think I got a bit lucky. To be honest, the XG on that game, Watford actually performed pretty well. It probably shouldn't have been the beating that it was. But yeah, it's against Southampton. It's another good game, isn't it?
Yep. I'm going to do Green Arrow now because I'm just going to mention it. So for anyone who's been a regular listener to the podcast and the YouTube, you know that we're supporting a charity called the FPL Challenge. Mark and I are donating £5 for every Green Arrow that we get this season. I've been saying it all season. I'd love for anyone listening to this to get involved. You don't have to donate £5. You can donate as much or as little as you like. You haven't got to base it on a Green Arrow. You could just give some money to the charity. It's supporting emergency aid in Ukraine. If anyone's feeling generous, given that it's Gameweek 38, I think super chats are open. If anyone wants to put a super chat in the comments, we won't answer your questions, but I will make sure that any money raised in the super chats between now and then, so the next 5 minutes or so, goes straight into this charity pool. So if you can't be bothered to set up the app and all that kind of stuff, you can donate here.
You'll do the work for
and
them.
I'll do the work. So if you followed it all this time and you haven't given any money or anything like that, and you're feeling like you want to donate, then this is your chance to do so. So yeah, really appreciate any money, because we've got 1,540 meals shared, which is amazing when you think about it. Like, that's 1,500 meals that have been given. Mark and I want to get that to 2,000 before the end of the season. So anything you can do to help us with that would be amazing. While the super chats roll in, no doubt, let's talk about the Black Box leagues. Savanish Singh, who is my captain for the Great and the Good Greyhead tournament, is number 1 in the world, which is incredible. He's number 1 in the Black Box League, obviously, because why wouldn't he be? On the bad side of things, though, my team is in the wooden spoon race. We might actually come bottom of the whole Greyhead tournament, Mark. So,
Blimey. More to the point, did you see that we are the best league in the world?
are we? As
we
of
are
now?
4 points ahead of Slippers. Yeah, go to the FPL front page, look at the best leagues.
Where we are. Look at that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we said, didn't we? We want to beat Slippers.
That's the real quiz.
We wanted to be in the top 5.
That is the real quiz, right? That is the real quiz. On the final day, it's going to be between, well, I mean, it could all get a shake-up, isn't it? But it'd be amazing if the Black Box League wins the overall best league in our second season, right? So, well played to everybody who joined our league. And, yeah, it's great. I mean, us and Slippers going into the final day. So we'll see.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, just to give a shout out to some of the people rounding out these top 10. Brett Taylor, I Love Lamp T, great name as well. Dave Addy, Eslam Tahar, Tess Ocklin, Joachim Lengroth, Rob Mays, Tony Yorath, Scott Liu, and Emil Svenheden. Thank you all, because you're the ones that are making us at the top of that ranking. So, yeah, that is an amazing achievement, isn't it, Mark?
Well, I must take some credit. I did make a deadline signing of Rob Mays in the week.
Did
he
you?
DM'd me. He DM'd me for something, and he said to me, "I'm number 6 in the world." And then I went, "You're not in our league. Yeah, do you mind joining our league?" So I snapped him up, and obviously Dave Addy has joined recently as well, and that is so. I had nothing to do with that. So some recent acquisitions has boosted our.
What we need to do more so is convince everyone to leave the other leagues and to stop being traitors.
Oh God, it's like tapping up like an agent. Love it.
I don't want it.
You've got some live chat there, as by the way.
We have, yeah. We've had some super chats in, which is amazing. £20 from FPL Naboo. Thank you so much, Stoyan and Nikhil as well, all donating. As I said, I'll make sure all that money goes to the good cause of the Green Arrow charity. If anyone else wants to donate, then feel free. I was worried that super chats weren't activated. I'd said all that for nothing, but clearly they are. So yeah, Delia in with £10 as well. Thanks so much, Delia, and everyone. Just to round off the Apprentice League, Mark, I think we've done it. We are. I mean, our minimum aim this season was surely to finish first and second in the Apprentice League.
I was worried for a while. God, blimey. Natalie's had such a good season.
She has.
Yeah.
She's been brilliant. Yeah. She's having a good week. She's on 61 points, but she is 46 points behind you, which I don't think she's going to make back. Henry's given up, unfortunately.
Look at the gap. And that's what happens, right? And that in itself, it's an interesting experiment. That is someone who knew a lot about football, was obsessed with Football Manager and Champman back in the day, played FBL, we didn't give him the kind of community access. We didn't give him the tool set. We didn't give him any tips other than those he can pick up off the official site. And he played about 30 odd game weeks and then gave up, really.
Yep.
Because he used all his chips early on because he didn't realise that wasn't the thing to do. So it's pretty clear that for new players, even those who have that element of obsessive football fans who are into like the geekier side of football, as in video games side of it, they don't latch onto it and stay. So there's a problem, isn't there, if that's the case?
Absolutely. I think there is, yeah. And I think the question for us is, what do we do next season? Do we get on some more apprentices? Do we kind of drop this thing? I mean, we haven't really given it the attention that it deserves, but I think...
Well... Yeah.
Whatever happens, Natalie's been a huge success because she's loved getting involved and being in the community and all of that.
And obviously, when the FPL Parry League beats FPL BlackBox League next season, we'll regret everything, won't we? So when our channel's massive.
God, it's definitely going to happen as well.
But I'm gonna, if you're still answering my emails, I will get in touch with Henry, and I think I will, bring him into the fold in terms of giving him more.
You should get a
access to the community and so on, and see if he improves his, enjoyment of the game. I think it will, because what would be nice if like actually not just give him a better understanding of the game, but actually he enjoys FPL more as for being part of the community. I think he would, but it's quite an interesting test to see if that is the case, because a lot of people say, like, overthinking, being on Twitter, it affects their performance and enjoyment, but I think it'd be a positive thing for Henry. So I will reach out, because I've been pretty bad getting in touch with him, and see if he's up for playing again next season.
I'm going to get you a new cup, a new mug next season. It's going to have on
a new
it
mug?
World's Worst Mentor. What about that?
Rather than FBL Elite, yeah. Well,
no FPL Godfather for you next season.
No,
I think that's it then. That's pretty much everything. We've done a long show. I just want to say, as it's Gameweek 38, just thank you everyone for all of your support, especially when kind of Mark went and had his kind of health problems as well, when I was kind of flying solo. I got loads of nice messages that kind of kept me going really with it, because it wasn't easy to obviously lose the Godfather FPL for about 8 or 9 episodes, but we got through it and onto bigger things next season. And obviously Luke's come in and done an amazing job, and he'll be around as well next season. I think overall it's been a success again, and hopefully the channel will continue to grow next season as well.
Oh yes, we've got plans for next season. We'll do a bit more, and and Luke will be on more as we've said previously. So yeah, we're gonna have a think over the summer, aren't we? We'll probably have a think on Sunday.
Have a think on Sunday with a few beers.
Yeah, and see what we can come up with. But yeah, like as says, thanks so much for all the support we've had this season, and for bearing with us when I had that term of absence. But I'll be back and strong next season, hopefully with a better rank.
And Forest in the Premier League.
That. Well, that'd be amazing. I mean, this season's suffering to be worth it if I can get that, but we'll see. One more game.
Awesome. Right. Well, that is it. That is a good night from me. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. We will do a roundup show at some point. Maybe, I don't know if it'll be next week. It'll be at some point. We'll definitely do a looking back, reflective episode. But until then, good luck in Gameweek 38 and see you soon.
Good night from me.
See ya.